chair down a bit. Hello, and welcome to the next X-Men panel discussion and review. We are doing The Wolverine from 2013, and we are joined by Callum.
All right.
And the returning Anthony.
I burped. If you didn't hear it, I'll try harder next time.
Or the returning Anthony, who has done his teaching.
Yeah, I taught some people. They're smarter now.
Yeah, and now has a master's degree in Aviarad hating. Patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani if you'd like to contribute to Anthony's teaching course. It's quite expensive to become a teacher, and it requires a lot of patience and time and dedication and missing out on reviews such as this to become a teacher. So if you'd like to support him so that he can, buy his meals in between course and when he's teaching kids and buy those kids ice blocks, then contribute to Patreon. And some of that may also go towards the channel as well. Twitter.com/Giandrozani if you'd like to get in contact with myself as I stir the pot with a bunch of annoyed fans about things, because that's always fun. And I'm thinking that this needs like one more social media, so it makes it like a trifecta, but I'm not sure which one. Just maybe start a tout.
What the hell is a tout? I'm going to look that up right now.
Exactly.
Tout.
Fucking Vince McMahon's not out of touch. Oh, just go on tout. But that's completely irrelevant. If you can think of a third social media that would be applicable, then suggest it in the comments. We used to have one for the MCU because I used to say, "Oh, if you know me personally, contact me on Facebook and you'll be on these reviews." And no one fucking replied because no one wants to be on reviews for some reason. Anyway, let's stop rambling, or I'll stop rambling. Seeing as Callum is the one that hasn't seen the film before, I'll let him start with his 2-minute initial thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. The Wolverine. I had no idea what to expect. Didn't know what kind of film it was going to be. I knew this obviously was the sequel to X-Men Origins Wolverine in this Wolverine trilogy. And going into it, I didn't have that much high expectations for it. I haven't really seen a lot of opinions or reviews of this film specifically, comparing it to all the others. And I think I was surprised by how not bad it was. I think the style is really cool. I think it's very clear what it wants to go for in terms of what the sort of direction this film wants, and I would say it achieves that. I think the story is a little lackluster, but not utterly boring. I think Hugh Jackman is great, as always. He's like incredible in almost every film he's in as Wolverine, so I wasn't surprised there. And when I finished it, I was like, yeah, that was fine. Thought it was nicely done, thought it was nicely stylized, just an okay film, just nothing too exciting for me.
All right, Anthony.
So the Wolverine, I have like not so great memories of this film. I think rewatching it was good for me. Like Callum said, it has a style and it completely goes for it. That style is the traditional kind of samurai Japanese type of story to tell. You've got your kind of quote unquote princess, or the main female lead role, and she's like from a very rich family and all that and whatever, and you've got your hero who's kind of looked down upon at the start, and then at the end it's kind of like, you've saved me, wow. Rewatching it, I thought it's okay, it does all right. Miles better than Origins. That movie's shit. Don't get me started on that movie. This movie's a lot better.
And that's all?
That's all I have to say for now, without going into single characters and whatnot.
Yeah, okay. So, going into this film, I was fearful. The reason being is because there's a sort of common thread with some of these X-Men films I've had where watching them for these reviews, they haven't been as good as I remembered. Especially X-Men 2, I think, was the big one, where it was nowhere near as good as I remembered from when I was a kid. But, thankfully, it wasn't as bad as it could have been in terms of my fears, because I would say I enjoyed it probably as much, if not more, than I did when I watched it in the theatre. And whilst it's certainly not a major sort of film with like a lot of important parts, I like the fact that it's very focused and it's got a lot. It sort of, I feel like compared to other X-Men films, sort of knows what it's dealing with, and it really hones in on one story around one character. And I like that because that is something that I've been wanting from these X-Men films, watching them, because they're all very messy. Even First Class, which I enjoyed a bit more than some of the others, even that had messy elements to it. But with this one, it was very different, and I appreciate that. I like the style. I really like the character stuff with Wolverine. That's probably going to be my biggest talking point from this. And yeah, for me, this film in this series is actually a big refreshing point, and one that you probably wouldn't expect from a series like this. So I think it was a ballsy move that paid off in some regards. And I would probably say, out of all the films in the X-Men series that we've reviewed so far, this might be my favorite. I don't think it's great, but I do think that it had a lot more of a solid grounding and a lot less problems than all the others. I liked the fact that it was isolated and it didn't have any annoying parts like the other films do. But yeah, I was happily. I would say I was happy watching it. I'll say that. So yeah. But I do understand why this one gets forgotten, because it's not particularly memorable. It's kind of like, I would say you could probably maybe compare this, like in terms of the franchise, you could almost say like this is like the Rogue One of X-Men films, because it's like there's not a lot that's like bad with it, but it's just kind of, it doesn't really get brought up as much as the others, because it's not much of a talking point. It's more just sort of a isolated, nice little film, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would say I was quite pleased after watching this. So yeah, let's start the characters. Let's start straight away with Logan, aka Wolverine. Let's go with Anthony first.
I was almost in a sense, I was glad that they kind of have him as this person he's kind of straying away from the events of the first three X-Men, and is obviously the flashbacks with Jean Grey, and you know he feels guilty for he was the one to like kill her at the end of that. I thought that was a nice little thing to see. He he's like this mutant who's like, he's an animal and people are like, oh, disgusting, get him away. But you see on the inside, he like really feels about something like that, which is, it's a very emotional event, that happened to him. So that was, it's a nice little kind of thing to have in there for a character on the outside who is a complete animal, and then on the inside, he's maybe not so much. I think I can't remember off the top of my head the rest of the like looks that Hugh Jackman has in these movies. I think his hair in this one I like the best, just the short, spiky look.
Yeah, it's it's almost groomed, but not too groomed. It's not like ridiculously groomed, but like because obviously he goes from looking like a homeless man,
Yeah,
but then he gets cut, and it's very sort of like it feels more real. I would say it's not.
It's very modern, and I think that's what they were going for in the terms of like he's going to Japan, where everything's technology and modern and futuristic.
Well, I mean, in a lot of the ways, this film is kind of a reboot. It's kind of like
a little bit,
of phase 2, and also, funnily enough, the symbolism of that, the fact that this is sort of the start of phase 2 X-Men, is that I feel like this film has a lot of similarities to Iron Man 3 with how it does its storytelling around the main character. And one of the things I liked about this one is that it feels consistent all the way through, like the scenes with him and Jean Grey and the flashbacks to him in Nagasaki. So when I was watching that, I'm like, this is a lot like what you get with Tony in the first half of Iron Man 3, like with his anxiety. And you get a bit of that with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in this film. But one of the things that I didn't like about Iron Man 3 is in the second half, it sort of just fell apart and turned into something else. Whereas with this film, it's very, very well balanced, and it slowly unfolds across the film, and it's all resolved at the end, and I enjoyed that a lot. But what we can go on with what you were saying, Anthony?
No, there's this whole little like underlying thing in this film where it's he like Wolverine doesn't know if he wants to even exist anymore, like because he goes to Japan and I don't know the name, some Asian name, the guy that he saved in World War II.
Oh yeah,
is like I can take away
Yoshida
your power. Yeah.
Mariko Yoshida. That's the one. Oh no, hang on, no, sorry, that's the granddaughter. Sorry, it's Shingen Yoshida.
Yeah, he's like, I can take away your powers and you can live a regular life and get old and have a family and all that. And whoops, I just smacked my mic there. He's kind of like, you can have a normal life and die at the end of that. And you kind of see him as a character. He's like, oh shit, that could be like a reality for me. Oh shit. But then he kind of goes, no, fuck off. Like, I don't want that. And it's a night, like it keeps coming up during the movie, and I like that.
Yeah. The one thing that I love about this film is the fact that it's is how it makes Wolverine vulnerable, and the fact that not only does he sort of get taken down a peg with the fact that now he can actually get hurt and be at risk of death, but also the fact that it exposes him emotionally. It also mentally messes with him because now a guy who he saved his life during the bombings is now trying to steal his power. I think that is a really cool concept for a film like this, like a very small scale film. And overall, I really enjoy Wolverine in this film. Like, obviously the film is supposed to be him because obviously his name's in the title, but the fact that it's so focused on his character, but unlike Origins, doesn't completely mess everything up, if that makes sense. Because like with Origins, it was all the tent poles of the lore, but it wasn't executed well because it was just odd, and the resolution at the end completely made it all pointless. Whereas I feel like with this film, is it actually in reverse? I feel like this film makes Last Stand better because of his flashbacks to Jean Grey and his character development, and I feel like it really pulls me in to feeling like I can relate to him, despite the fact that he's invincible, made of adamantium, and is like tall and ripped and whatever, and he's this just insane beast. The fact that I can still feel like I can relate to him is quite a powerful bit of storytelling. But yeah, what did you think, Callum?
I really liked Wolverine in this film. I think I do like how this film does do a lot of reference back to the original X-Men films. I was surprised to see Jean in the sort of hallucination kind of sequences in this film. I feel, even though I really didn't like X-Men 3, I still like the acknowledgement of that it exists, and they're using that to develop Logan going forward in this film specifically. I think the journey that he goes on, sort of, in a sense, relearning how to be a hero, relearning how to be the Wolverine, and sort of embracing it, especially by the end. Like when he kills, I can't remember the guy's name, but when he kills,
Okay, so I said the wrong name, by the way. So I'll make everything clear, right? The grandfather's name, the guy saved in the war, who becomes Silver Samurai at the end, his name is Ichiro Yoshida. His son's name is Shingen Yoshida, and then his granddaughter's name is Mariko Yoshida.
Yeah.
So there.
Yeah. But yeah, I like how Logan basically re-becomes the Wolverine in this film, and I do like the way that they use the sort of like traditional samurai story. I think it's quite a nice, unique take on it, because it's quite. I would say they're quite similar. I would say, and it's weird how nicely well I would say the two sort of concepts blend together.
Yeah. Despite the fact that you wouldn't think they would, like this American comic book superhero and Japanese culture.
Like this is like, I would say this film is like the least American-like film I've seen in a while, which is weird because it's made by Fox.
That's probably why I do like it.
How.
That's probably why I like it. Yeah.
It has styles, but it does have substance to it, I would say, as well. So yeah,
it's probably the least American film that we've reviewed on this channel since Ragnarok or Black Panther. One of those two.
One of those
I
two.
suppose Black Panther is still kind of Americanized anyway. But then again, it does have a lot of African culture in it as well, which is.
I would say it's more of an African culture film than it is an American film.
Yeah,
but then I do like
just shit culture.
Oh yeah, it's awful. But I do like the style, and I think it does suit the character well. And I think by the end of the film, when he becomes Logan / Wolverine again, it's nice, like reward basically. I think where he's just like he's now fully like back in like his own mindset, as opposed to him being sort of a like stranded hobo sort of mess he was at the beginning of the film. I do like the journey he goes on. I think the other characters around him support him quite well as well, I would say.
Do you think maybe one of the reasons why I like this film is because it does the thing that I've been asking this whole time? In every single video, I've always said I just want a film that focuses on him as a character, and not for not to be bad, which is what Origins did. Do you think the reason why I like this film is because it basically does what I wanted?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say like. Even with Origins, I would say it doesn't fully focus on him because it focuses on his brother. It focuses on how he became the Wolverine, but not his like emotional depth, I would say. And I feel that this film does that.
Also,
and while it's fantastic, I say it does it pretty well.
Also, did you notice how huge he was in this film?
He was jacked.
Massive. He was massive. Jacked. And I'm reading a bit of trivia here on Wikipedia. Apparently, it's because he ate 6 meals a day in preparation, and it's because he contacted Dwayne Johnson for tips on bulking. So apparently, he had to eat 6,000 calories a day, and it was mostly chicken, steak, and brown rice. That's insane. Yeah, he was huge. That's why like the posters for this film mostly have him shirtless, because he's absolutely massive. Like,
oh yeah, he's
even bigger than what he was before.
He's completely he's cut like a rock. So, yeah.
But again, just repeating what I said before, I really like the way the film focuses on him as a character. And it does it all the way through the film. I find
it doesn't drop off.
Yeah, I find what it does is it takes one of the best parts of this franchise and it uses it to its full potential in the sense that it doesn't just stuff a whole bunch of shit into it like the X-Men trilogy does. And yeah, I also think that out of all the films so far, this has the best action scenes as well, for me. especially the one on the train. I love the one on the train. That one's great.
Yeah, the one on the train is pretty good.
Yeah. And I just think that the way that the film, also in its direction, the way the film almost shows you what's happening from his point of view is quite refreshing, because it's something we haven't really had before. Like when he gets shot, he's sort of become the whole cinematography of the film becomes labored. I really like that. It's almost pulsing. And before I forget, Jesus Christ, this film has some violence in it. Like, like really, really violent stuff. But yeah, I thought Logan / Wolverine was excellent in this film, and Hugh Jackman's performance, as always, was brilliant. And I think they made the right move. I think this film was the right move for the sort of, I don't know, reboot, if you want to call it that. Because like after X-Men, that's like the one character that you really want to see. Where does he go next? And the fact that he goes to Japan, which is such an odd choice, but it works, is interesting. Anthony.
Yep.
What do comic book fans think of Wolverine in this film?
It's interesting because, again, it's a big split. I know that a lot of people, like me, were really happy with the portrayal of his adventure to Japan, because that's straight from a comic book. And the battle with, I'm going to get his name,
Samurai.
Shingen Yoshida.
Oh, you mean Ichiro Yoshida, because Ichiro is the one that plays Silver Samurai.
No, not Silver Samurai. His son.
His son.
When he takes the thing out of his own heart and then fights him. Because that battle is straight from the comics. Like, I was watching that, and I could see the comics on the page as they go, and I was like, that's very good, nice portrayal there.
I feel like this film is like a good version of what Ang Lee wanted to do with Hulk.
Yeah. I guess. I mean,
it's like Ang Lee has like his whole I'm gonna make an Eastern style comic book film, but he went so over the top with it, and Hulk ended up being very odd.
Well, see, because people liked that whole Silver Samurai part of this movie, right? But then they also went and they were like, hey, let's put in another mutant in here, and she's going to be the villain. And to be honest, in my opinion, it's just she didn't have to be there, did she?
We'll get to her. We'll get to her later.
Yeah, so that's why people are very half with this film, because in places it's really obvious. Fox went, oh, let's chuck in this money. Is Avi Arad around? But it was just kind of like, I'll put him in because we can.
I think the offenses are much less than the other X-Men films, though.
Oh, no, it's absolutely.
Nowhere near as bad as something like Last Stand, where they just threw every character in it. Jeez, my chair's falling backwards. It's like your one, Anthony.
My one's comfy, though.
Yeah, but whenever I sit in it, I'd fall backwards and think I'm going to die. But yeah, anything else to say about Wolverine? Because I just thought he was brilliant, honestly. I thought
he was really good.
Done well.
Yeah, I thought he was a extremely captivating character to follow. And I remember in the cinema, because in the cinema this was one of those ones they marketed like, oh, watch it in 3D. I remember the fight with Silver Samurai in the cinema was awesome. Like when his blades get cut off and then his bones come out. I remember in the cinema that looked awesome in 3D. But yeah. Yeah. So should we move on to the next character?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, let's talk about Ichiro Yoshida, aka Silver Samurai. So we'll let Callum go first.
I was quite indifferent, I think, on the final act with him, but being the Silver Samurai at the end, I just sort of felt like it kind of did come out of nowhere for me. I
I
thought at the
would
beginning,
say I would say this character kind of has like the Obadiah Stane Ironmonger problem.
yeah, he really does. Because I thought he was really, I liked him at the beginning of the film because I felt he was like wise, knowledgeable, that kind of vibe from him, and like it was nice. The scenes between him and Logan at the beginning of the film, I really liked. And then obviously with his passing, it was like, oh, that's like a big moment, I would say, for Logan. And then at the end, he turns into Silver Samurai, just like, I want to live forever. And it's just like, I mean, it was going so well, and then it went for this, and it's like I don't know. I really was indifferent on it, and I think the final act really like put the nail in the coffin for me. And it's a shame because I really liked the character at the start, and I
Yeah.
thought and his origin basically with the beginning, very beginning, like the pre credits and all that, I thought were really good. I thought it was really cool, and then it gets ruined by the final act.
I think all of his scenes in the past were excellent. Like when he gets the sword as well, I love that scene too.
Yeah.
But like you said, it kind of has the final act kind of has the problem like when when Obadiah Stane becomes Ironmonger, it's just like, what is that?
Yeah.
And it just sort of it almost takes away all that character development.
Yeah,
I will say, despite the fact that I like the action scene, like I do enjoy the action scene, it does definitely take away some of that sort of mystique the character had beforehand. But I will say one thing: I love that bed he sits on that like moves when he moves. It's very weird, but I love looking at it. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Mm.
You know the one I mean, right? The one where he's like dying, and there's like it's got like these like bumps that lift him up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when I remember when I saw it, I'm like, oh, it's that thing I saw in 3D, and it looked awesome.
Yeah.
Do those things actually?
It looks really cool. I don't know.
Probably
But it's like that. It's like because obviously like Japan is very advanced. It's got very advanced technology even like today. So like, in an alternate universe, it's like this is sort of the technology they would have, especially like an owner of like the biggest company in the country. So it's interesting. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Also, I do want to add that once again, I didn't have subtitles, so I didn't know anything that like from the Japanese scenes.
I don't think they really.
Did you not?
They weren't that important in my opinion. I don't know.
But that being said, unlike First Class, I actually have seen this film before with subtitles, so I do know what it's about.
Yeah.
So I wasn't as confused this time because I was like, yeah, I've seen this before. I have a rough idea of what they said. As opposed to First Class, where I'm like, what? But yeah, Anthony, what did you think of Ishiro Yoshida, aka Silver Samurai?
I can sum it up in 3 words. Everybody loves robots.
I was thinking that when I saw it.
Yeah, so it does. He does suffer the same Obadiah Stane fate, where it's like, I am the robot, a big robot. I'm going to kill you now, and it's like, okay, yep, cool, very nice. You got a bit more character, or is it just big robot? So it's a little. It's sad, really. I mean, the CGI was pretty good. I'll be honest. Versus the CGI on that train scene, the train scene was a bit questionable for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought I could clearly tell the green screen from like Hugh Jackman and the other stunt actors or face actors or whatever, jumping up and down and shit.
I mean, maybe it was because I was watching it on a phone, but I didn't notice it at all, and I was completely immersed in it. Like, I loved the train scene. So luckily for me, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I was just like, wow, this is really like CGI. It wasn't as bad as the Spider-Man 2 bank scene. I'll give it that.
It's not as bad as Planet of the Spiders when John Pertwee flies in his car, eh, Callum?
Mm. Right, that's like 40 years difference between this
And it's on
film
the
and like then.
BBC.
Yeah, yeah. But
Anyway,
I was like the same. I did think there was. I think the CGI throughout the film was quite hit and miss. Sometimes I think some stuff looked great and other stuff looked a bit meh. Like I didn't really like. I think the Silver Samurai design. I didn't think it looked that great. I thought it was just fine.
Yeah, for me, like his design at the end, like the big robot, was very simplistic, which is sad because I really like the comic book design, which is just like a regular samurai outfit, but it's
yeah,
silver.
yeah. I
Wow,
would have,
what a
I would
you
have,
know?
I would have liked it if it was a bit less mechanical. Like it didn't.
Yeah,
It looked like something. If like Iron Man was in Japan, like it looked kind of something like that.
yeah.
And it was a little bit like, oh, I wish this was something a bit more simplistic and a bit more, you know. It would have been cool if the final battle of this film was in the style of what a lot of the other ones were doing, which was the sort of Japanese fight,
Yeah,
as opposed to the robot.
yeah. That because like that's what I was thinking too when I was watching the like samurai fight that he was having with the other dude, the younger guy. I was like, this should have been the end fight because that's like a this is a nice fight and it's choreographed well and like the sound design's good and it looks really, stylish and stylized. But instead they were like, oh, let's put a big CGI monster in there. That'll be cool. And it's like, yeah, but if you were still going with the style, would have worked a lot better.
Mm. And I think it would also be there would have been a much better ending had the fight been mixed in with more dialogue as opposed
Yeah,
to just. I mean, I will say I do love the fact that his claws get cut off and the fact that his bones come out. Like visually and like talking from a physical point of view, I did really like that. But and I love the fucking when he's drilling into it. That's like makes me wince. But that could have been achieved with something else. You know.
yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, definitely the section sort of towards the end of the film where it's that room with all the levels and the obviously the part where you can fall out and the big silver samurai. I feel like that's sort of it's quite a contained section, and that section of the film is kind of probably one of the points that I wish was different because everything else in the film I thought was pretty solid when it comes to the action scenes. Apart from obviously you mentioned the green screen, but I didn't notice it, so
Yeah,
I was quite immersed. Um, but yeah, yeah, it'd be like if the last action scene of Spider-Man 2 was the bank scene. You'd be a bit like, oh,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. You know, and also I think I may have mentioned in the Iron Man 2 review that like I prefer the action at the start of the film to the end. Like the Formula One action scene, I think is better than the action scene that actually happens at the end of the film. Not
Yeah,
just because of like the cool like stunts and whatever and the suit up, but also the fact that just the way it ends in Iron Man 2 is just like, oh yep, that's the end. He just
yeah,
blows up.
yeah,
And I will say when the samurai was thrown out of the side and he just died, I was a bit like, oh, that was a bit of a standard ending to this complex, deep character story, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah. No, they were just like, oh, he's big and bad now, so he gets one of those deaths.
Mm. But yeah, but I will say, aside from the six samurai, I like pretty much everything else with that character. Like before then, I think he's pretty awesome. I love the way he tricks Wolverine into thinking that he's dead. I think that was pretty cool.
I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on that. I have just noticed because I've got the film on repeat right now. I have noticed that I can't remember her name, but it's the girl who can predict people's deaths.
Oh,
I just
Yukio,
know
I think.
her. Yeah,
It's Yukio.
she obviously. I just went past the detail where she said that she didn't foresee Yoshida's death, like the night he supposedly died. So I was like, okay, well they hinted at that, which I kind of like didn't think about when watching it, but I still feel like it was just sort of like, I don't know. I felt like they could have done something else with Yoshida dying and didn't have to bring him back. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a bit indifferent on it. I think his whole arc, I think I wasn't a fan of.
Well, I understand what you mean by the result, yes, but what I'm saying is that I like the plot of him faking his death, basically.
Yeah,
I like that. It's just, unfortunately, he faked his death to become a big robot, and it was a bit stink.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the end result. I don't think is satisfying enough, and it makes the concept that could have been great for me. I was just sort of different on it. When at the end result, it does affect like my sort of judgment on it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Just trying to think anything else of that character. Oh, what do we think of the performance
Of Yoshida?
Yeah, Ashiro Yoshida, the grandfather.
I think when the younger version of him and the beginning of the film, I thought his performances was really good.
I also like the fact that they do feel like the same person as well.
They do, yeah. While I don't like when it's revealed he's alive, I don't like his sort of like, I guess sort of like performance, but I think that's to do with the writing of him. I think at the end of it, it does become a bit goofy at that point.
He goes crazy.
But I will say that
steal your powers.
Yeah, I did like the transition of him becoming from old to young. I thought that was very nicely done. I think.
Yeah.
I think the effect on that was very good. But yeah, I think overall, as an overall performance, I think it could be summed up as it's very hit and miss. I would say. Beginning of the film really good. End of film, bit crazy.
Just like Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think anything else to say about him. He doesn't really. It's interesting that he's the main villain, but he doesn't really appear that much in the film. Mainly because the film is more just people talking about him rather than himself, and it's more about like Logan's reactions to him. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I will say I think all of the scenes in the flashbacks to Nagasaki are really well done. I love
I would say so.
I love when like the bomb like goes down the hole and then like he pushes off the metal plate and then Logan's skin is all just melted. It's like really filthy looking.
It's very disgusting.
Yeah. He almost looks like the Thing from Fantastic Four, but like covered in blood.
Ugh.
Like when the Thing has just been given birth to. Anything else we want to say about Ashiro before we move on to the next character?
No, I think I've said everything.
Anthony?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Okay, so then we've got Shingen Yoshida, who is the son of Ashiro. And he is obviously part of the more martial arts action scenes as well as the political side of this plot, which is a whole nother aspect. Let's start with Anthony.
I'm trying to place I'm gonna look up his filmography because I know I've seen this actor somewhere before.
Hiroyuki Sanada is the actor's name. Um,
He was in Avengers Endgame apparently.
oh, who does he
Well,
play?
there you go. Aki
I think
Hiko.
I guarantee he'll probably be in the Ronan introduced scene when we
Oh
see
yeah,
Hawkeye for the
yeah,
first time. I
that's
guarantee you he's probably
very
in that
true.
scene.
Yes, it is. He was the person who Ronan kills. Yeah,
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
good spotting there, Callum. Yeah, no, I liked his this. I liked the kind of. I said this when we were going over Wolverine. I liked the kind of like difference between because like the Japanese culture is very kind of modern, and just when Wolverine's been introduced to it, and they're kind of like this animal, this monster, disgusting, get it out of here, and he's kind of like,
Where's your Gaijin friend? That's what he said.
yeah, exactly, and he's like, you're fucking disgusting, get out of here, like when they're at his father's funeral, he says I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's just like, get him out of here, fucking who is this homo, you know? This homeless man, this American guy, and his performance is very believable, which
Yeah,
is
he's very
very
he's
nice
quite
in these
intense.
movies.
He's quite intense, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
And
he was
slicked back black hair.
also in my favorite action scene of this movie, which was when the two of them fought with those samurai swords.
That was cool. Like
That was
I love the fact. I love the fact that if Wolverine wasn't invincible, this guy would have won. Because he
Yeah.
literally slices his entire torso in half.
yeah. But the thing that it's funny with some of these movies, right? They have the real cheesy shit to them. Like the first, the Raimi Spider-Man films are full of that cheese. This movie had like a little bit of it when he's fighting Shingen Yoshida, and he like pulls him close and has his claws in his chest, and he goes, "What are you?" And he's just like, "I'm the Wolverine," and kills him. There was a bit of that comical cheese that's
but
always
it was
pretty
more
nice
like-
to have.
It was more like the kind of cheese you'd see in like a Bruce Lee film rather than a Marvel film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's what I liked as well. Is that this film is like, yes, we're pretty much all of it's based in Japan, so we'll have it on this Japanese styled movie.
Mm.
Where it's the whole family drama, and you've got an outsider coming in, and all of that. So I thought his portrayal of this character, who's like, I should be getting my father's wealth after he's dead, instead of my daughter. Fuck her. It was a very nicely portrayed character.
I really like the whole plot behind the fact that her marriage is arranged just for this fucking corporate scheme. Like, I think that it's really messed up and quite cool.
Well, for me, it felt very believable. I was like, yeah, in Japan, that probably would happen.
And
Just
she's not
or
refusing because of honor. Like
That's
Yeah.
in like a lot of like princess like royalty like kind of stories I find where the princess is forced to marry someone for like the sake of the two families.
yeah. And the
So
guy
that's
she's supposed to marry is like the biggest douchebag.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know there was a pool there? I didn't.
Yeah, that was funny.
You know that the guy she's supposed to be married to, when they went into his house, I instantly thought of Yujiro Takahashi. You know, the pimp from New Japan, like the guy from Bullet Club, Kellen? Do you know the one I'm talking about? It reminded me of him straight away.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying something, Anthony?
No, I think that was about it.
Shingen?
I liked the whole overall like Japanese styled story as well.
Unfortunately, I can't make too many comments because most of his scenes are in Japanese, so I didn't really get the subtitles. But the plot surrounding him, I thought, was excellent. The whole, obviously it's a trope from princess stories of Japan, but the whole side of it, the fact that he is so obsessed with having his father's will that he is willing to basically use his daughter as a a legal object to get money is very scumbaggy. And like you said, the fight with Wolverine with the swords is pretty awesome. Callum.
That's probably my favorite action scene, I think, in the film, because I think that sort of the lighting as well was very, very atmospheric. I would say it's very
The lighting in this film
stylized.
is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting in this film is beautiful, especially all the scenes that have a contrast of blue and orange are excellent. Yeah. It's very, very nice lighting. It's almost like Blade Runner, actually. In some scenes at night, it's almost like Blade Runner. It's really good.
I got that just too. A couple of the scenes at nighttime.
The action scene when like they're at the love bedroom place, and
I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like raining and there's guns and that lighting. It's very atmospheric. But yeah, Shingen. Were you saying something, Callum? I think.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think the actor is well acted. I think his performance is really good. I think at times, the biggest complaint that I have about this film is that I think at times it's hard to keep track of who's who and who's related to who. I think.
Really?
I think it might have been just me. I think sometimes I wasn't fully aware of like who was related to who at times. Right. That might have just been me. So it wasn't like 100% clear. Like I didn't know if this was like brother or father or grandfather.
I kind of put the dots together early because it was established as soon as Wolverine went to Japan, it was established pretty quickly that it was her grandfather, and then it was established very soon after that he was his son. So I basically thought, and based on the dialogue, I was thinking, so he must be her father then. And those are the only real important ones you need to know, because everyone else is just kind of extra.
Yeah, I would say, but I just think as when you're watching it for the first time, I think sometimes because it's quite a different style of film, I think sometimes it's hard to get your head wrapped around characters and brand new characters that I've never seen before, and it wasn't. It just for me, I don't think it was as clear. But I think after a while, I did eventually get it. And I think the character was good. I liked how it became like the sort of reasoning as to why he despised her, because of like he didn't receive the power from the grandfather or like his father. So I thought that was pretty cool, I would say. I think the character's cool.
Yeah. And people watching this might think that you're only saying that because it's a Japanese film, but that's not true at all, because I had that when I first watched Game of Thrones. They just threw like 50 characters at me. I'm like, I don't fucking know who's related to who. They all look different. Like who like what?
Yeah.
So why is it took me a long time to actually figure out who was related to who.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's not an uncommon thing. It's not an uncommon thing. It's just when you watch a story with lots of characters and a big structural story that's based around people being related to each other that isn't full of very direct exposition, because in a kid's film you would get that like straight away. They'd explain everything to you right to your fucking face, like they give you every single detail, almost breaking the fourth wall. Whereas in a film like this, it's very much they are already in a conversation with each other, and you sort of just have to pick up on the certain words and put the pieces together in your mind.
You have to pick up on those cues, Yeah,
it's an interesting topic, actually. I think the exposition in general is an interesting topic when it comes to film and TV, because the most realistic stories have the confusing exposition, because it's something that, like, the way it's presented in this film feels like it's something that you would see in real life, because in real life they're not playing to an audience, they're talking to each other because they've known each other for years. So obviously they know who each other is. So if you were to explain to the audience up front who is related to who, it would feel unrealistic, because no real person would do that. So it's kind of, you got to find that fine line where people will understand the story, but it doesn't feel out of place when they explain things.
Well, I feel the explanation is also like the character of Yukio explaining to Wolverine, because he's he was in fucking Canada or whatever, and she's like, that's, the dude who wants to see you, and that's his daughter, in case you're wondering, because you're just here to see him, and you don't have any fucking clue. Neither do the people watching, but I'm talking to you, as a character.
I think that is why it doesn't completely fail, because you have a point of view character who's just learning this along with us in Wolverine, and you have a person to explain it to him.
I feel as a character, Wolverine honestly doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just here to say see ya,
Yeah.
Which helps us even more, because we'll learn the information. We're like, oh, yep. And then Wolverine's just like, I don't give a shit. I just want to say see ya and fuck off.
Yeah. But then it turns into a much bigger thing than he anticipated.
Yeah.
Are we done talking about Shingen Yoshida?
Yep.
I think I've said everything.
Okay, let's move on to Mariko Yoshida, who is the granddaughter and the romantic interest of the film. Let's go Callum first.
I think as a romantic interest, I thought she was fine. I think the actress is good. I didn't find any glaring issues with her. I think it's when the story is revolved around a character and it's very specific about what she can do. If you know what I mean. It's, for me, I enjoyed her throughout the entire film. I just wasn't blown out of the park or anything, but I wasn't expecting to be blown out of the park by the character. I thought they served the job that they were meant to as a romantic interest, and also the sort of plot point, I would say, of the film. I think she served it well.
I find it really refreshing to have a romantic interest who's not jealous of this person's past. I found that really refreshing. The fact that she was asking about who was Jean, but it's not because she's like, oh, who's this person that you used to like? That's not me. It's not that. She's genuinely interested because she cares about Logan's feelings. I found that almost wise.
Yeah, I think that is because at the beginning of the film, it's sort of like when they first try to get to know each other, she kind of resents him a little bit. Because he's like, who is this caveman? And then it's like he's just a bit of an outsider. And then obviously they bond together a lot, and it's nice to see, and they care about each other by the end of the film. So it's different from traditional romantic interests, and I think they do it well. I think just beyond that, I just thought she served the plot, and she was a good character and was well performed.
I like the actress's performance as well. I think she's actually feels very natural compared to some of the others. The one thing that I will say about this character in general to me is that she feels more like a real person rather than a dramatic character. And I find that in this franchise, I find that quite refreshing. Their relationship is obviously not something that's sort of like, oh, I'm going to remember this for hundreds of years. No. It's pretty forgettable overall. But it's sort of like a nice little thing that happens, and then that's it, and then they move on. And I don't know. I was expecting when I sort of clicked in my head that this is what was going to happen before it happened, because I sort of I noticed, I was like, yeah, this seems like it's going to be the romantic interest. I was expecting to hate it. I thought it was going to be bad, but then I watched it and I was like, you know what? That's actually not that bad. It's okay. It's just a little thing that happens, and it's, she's a decent character, and I don't know, I just found it refreshing. That's the one word I would use to describe it. Yeah. What about you, Anthony? What did you think?
At the start, it was kind of not annoying, more irritating. The fact that she's obvious because it's like, oh, yep, this is the romantic interest.
You're just like, oh, here
Very
we go.
clear.
It's one of these
Yeah,
again.
exactly. And like he's like, hey, don't jump off this fucking balcony. And she's like, oh, let me go. I don't even know you. Who are you? But as you get to know her as a character, you're kind of like, oh, yes, this is actually, that's actually probably what would happen in real life. You could say my expectations were subverted.
But in a good way.
in a good way of all, I was like, oh, okay. And then, the movie goes on and you're kind of like, oh, this is an actual character. This isn't just like, here's the interest, here's the romantic interest.
And I think
here's a
because,
character with morals and thoughts and actual a brain.
and it goes back to what I was saying is unlike the other X-Men films, it's actually focused because it has less characters and more time to do things with them, and it feels more natural rather than just like, oh yeah, they're in love, they're in love, they're in love. Oh yeah, there's a guy with wings and another one and a Venom's in it and fucking it's all over the place. Like whereas with this one, it's kind of like it actually takes its time to introduce you to her, and there's scenes with them together that are designed to sort of warm you into it, and I think to an extent it actually kind of works. And I think my favorite scene with her is when he wakes up, like with his claws out. He like has he has a dream about Jean, and then he wakes up and he thinks the samurai is about to cut him with a sword, but then it's not there. And like obviously, this is in this moment, Wolverine is very panicked and quite tense, and it almost looks like he's gonna like stab his claws into her, but she just stays calm. She's very calm, and I think again it feels refreshing because she's not a damsel in distress. She's very much just like something that you wouldn't usually get, and I again like it's something else. It's something that we haven't seen before from this franchise, at least. And again, it probably has something to do with the fact that it represents sort of Japanese-style characters. And I like that a lot. I like the fact that because like, it could have easily been like, the scene in Iron Man 3 when Tony's like wakes up and he like starts shooting things and Pepper Potts like storms out and it's like, we need a break or something like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that she kept calm. It's almost like she was in control of the situation. It was very different. Caught me by surprise. Subverted my expectations.
Yeah.
But yeah. What do we think about the part of the film where like she keeps on saying to him like, I don't need your help?
Well, that was like her trying to become independent. Basically, it's like I think it's classic, like because a character in a very well family that is very structured, and then there's a character or just person in general when they want to be more independent and are sick of being helped in a sense. So it's that sort of thing, which is fine. It never really bothered me.
Yeah, I like the sort of bittersweet ending they have as well. The fact that she's like, stay with me, and he says that he can't because he's a soldier and he's got stuff to do, like, which ties back to a statement from earlier in the film where he's like, didn't he say like, I'm not a soldier? But then he's like, basically accepts that he is at the end. I like the fact that their ending is sort of this, the way it ends is very, again, it feels different to anything else that we've seen recently.
Well, it's almost like a mirror of what happened previously.
Previously when?
Well, that scene you were saying where, like, earlier in the film, he's like, I'm not a soldier, I'm not going to do whatever it is. And then, like, at the end, it's like, no, I am a soldier and I need to go and do my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it might be the fact of the sequence of what films I've seen recently, because maybe if I watched a different film or different films around it, it might not have the same effect. But I just really appreciate how this film is different to everything else I've seen recently. That's something that I really appreciate, and this is something that I feel like the MCU needs to do more with its solo films, is have more variety of culture within the film. Not
Yeah.
just not, and I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, you need to have like lots of, different planets and countries, and that stuff's great too, but in terms of the actual storytelling itself, the structure, the plot, the characters, try and blend it a bit and make it less Americanized, because make every film feel a bit different. Because that's something that this film does that I feel like, something like Doctor Strange could benefit from. Not just some weird, like, slightly interesting story that's set to a hospital thing with a romantic interest that's just bland. Because that was one of the biggest problems I had with Doctor Strange, was just the romantic interest felt like any other romantic interest in any other Marvel film, and I was a bit like, oh, that's not what I wanted from a Doctor Strange film. I wanted something a bit weirder.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of Japanese style would have suited Doctor Strange more, or like just an Eastern cultured story, if that makes sense. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I'm just saying I want more variety because it's becoming too predictable.
Yeah.
Like when I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen in every scene because it's the most predictable film ever. And like, there's not much wrong with the film. I'm like, yep, this is good actors, good story.
It's just by the books.
It's just, yeah, it's like I know
Yeah.
every single plot point of this film already because I've just watched 20 Marvel films, and this is the same as all the
In
others.
a row, within
Yeah.
a month.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes it
So
even worse.
I would say my creative passion was, this film has actually sort of rejuvenated my interest in these films. I would say it was definitely something that I appreciated about it, and that character in particular, I'm forgetting her name again. It was Mariko Yashida, was a big part
Yep.
of that. Although I will say the scene that I thought looked like Blade Runner, the technique in which she throws her knives does not look right. Like, because
I would say that the biggest problem I have, one of the biggest problems I have, I think the editing in the fighting scenes, I think especially in the funeral scene, was very choppy. I think it wasn't very blend together very well between the shots.
Yeah,
I think the funeral scene was the
there's a
biggest
couple of
that.
there's a couple of choppy moments, and it's very similar to First Class. There's a section of First Class that's like that, where it's very slashed.
It's very like classic like shaky cam kind of like action scenes to hide like the sort of choreography. But but other films you can blend it well and not feel as jarring. But with this, I think
it's hard.
was
It's
quite
really
jarring.
hard though, because there's obviously, they do that for a reason. But then you get a film
Yeah.
like Last Jedi, which attempts a scene without shaky cam, which is a brilliant,
And it
ambitious
fails.
move, but it fails because it's not good.
Yeah, if you watch that scene, if you just look at both Rey and Kylo, it looks fantastic, and I would say the aesthetic is really
Yeah.
cool. But when you look at the stuntman, it looks very,
Yeah,
very
and then
weird.
and then you get something like the Star Wars prequels, where it's all very well practiced and there's no mistakes, but because it's so choreographed, it kind of looks more like a dance rather than a fight.
Yeah,
It's very hard to get right, like those kind of scenes. And I think that's probably why we appreciate the fight with Shingen so much, because it feels right.
yeah. It's not as chaotic for me.
Yeah, it's not a lot of films that can get choreography done really well without using that shaky cam.
Mm.
But yeah, I would say trying to think of an example. Probably like Winter Soldier and Civil War, aside from the shutter speed bit that I didn't like, in terms of choreography, is pretty well planned out. I would say those two films are an example of when it works. But yeah, although that a lot of the fight scenes from those films tend to be a bit more extravagant, which makes them a little bit different to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on to the next character?
Yep.
So we have Yukio, who I believe was the red hair one, the precognitive mutant, the one that can see people's deaths through a keyhole. She said.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I don't want you to answer this question, because obviously I don't want you to spoil it. But one thing that really intrigued me about this on rewatch was the scene when she says she can see Logan's death.
Mm-hmm.
I thought one of us would bring this up. Yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't seen Logan, right?
No.
I haven't seen that film. So when I saw that scene, I'm like, ooh, I'm interested to see what happens in Logan and if it's anything similar to what she described. Like to see if the continuity is consistent, or if it's slightly different, or if it's the same, or whatever. Because then it's interesting because later in the film, he actually does reach to his chest to grab the thing out of his heart. But what
Which would imply like that's what she was talking about, you know.
But what she described was slightly different to what that scene turned out to be. So I am quite intrigued for Logan to see if there's any similarities to what she described. But yeah, that's just a small thing that I noticed with her dialogue where I was like, "Oh, is this foreshadowing?" But yeah, foreshadowing is actually another thing that's a big part of Japanese culture as well. But yeah, what do we think of her as a character overall?
Overall, I thought she was just fine. I think after, I would say, the main plot took over, she was very, like...
She went in the background.
In and around. Yeah, she was very much in and around, but not in the forefront, which I wasn't expecting, but I didn't really think much of her. I think the scene she's in, she's fine, and she's not a bad actress at all. Just, I don't really have anything really to say about her.
She's more of like a exposition filler, really, in reality.
Yeah.
The actress's performance is very odd. It's very different. Like, I didn't really know what to think of it.
I thought it was just fine, but not because I didn't really think much of her.
Like, she's got a very weird sense of humor. It's hard to describe.
It's modern, like, youth humor, I would say.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It's similar to like Shuri, but not as forefront.
Well, the thing is, like I was going to say that, but at the same time, I feel like Shuri's sense of humor is a bit more direct and a bit more westernized, whereas hers is, I guess you could say, yeah, you're right. It's sort of modern, but the actual delivery is a very strange. It's It's very much like, I feel like the point was trying to make her seem very different to Logan, because
it feels more like a clash of styles, I would say. For me, the way I would describe it.
Yeah, whereas like with Shuri, it's like, what are those? And Black Panther's like, ho, 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 I'm wearing sandals today.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Don't you mock my shoes, sister. As opposed to this, where it's like Wolverine's like, what did you just say? I don't understand. I like to chop trees. Anyway, go on.
I don't know if he was the last person talking, but yeah, she's just a fine character. I don't have any real problems with her. Just maybe she just went into the background after being quite prevalent in the first act.
As a small nitpick, this is just. I think I may have mentioned this on the Ant-Man review, and probably have mentioned it since then. I despise her fringe. It gave me flashbacks to Wasp from the first Ant-Man. It's very...
But at least it doesn't look like a wig, though.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just like natural hair.
But no, I just... Oh, God. It's very off-putting for me. I don't know why. I don't know why it is. I just don't like that hair. It's very irritating. But yeah, that's... I don't know. It's annoying that had to get in the way. It's like how Anthony. It's like how you can't watch Torchwood because of Gwen's tooth gap.
Oh no, no.
Oh dear.
How can you focus on anything coming out of her mouth when that is the thing coming out of her mouth?
Because Jack Harkness is on the screen.
It's just like,
Captain Jack Harkness.
There's a big gap in your teeth. Please fix it. Put some cement in there or something.
Oh god. Jesus, put some cement in there. Nah, she needs to become like what's his name? Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I was literally about to say
no,
she needs to jump into a pool with electric eels.
Fucking hell.
And then Captain Jack starts like flirting with the eels. I love how like the very first scene of Torchwood, it's like straight away she's just like, "What's going on here?" And then the policeman's like, "Oh, found a dead body. It's a fucking disgrace." Also, that's another thing that happened in this film. There was a lot of swearing, a lot more than the others.
I did notice that. I had to research afterwards. I was actually watching the extended cut.
Ah, so did you get some extra scenes that we didn't?
I got one very R-rated scene. I was because I saw it and I was like, wait, this film was M to my memory.
So
I had to look it up.
What was the duration of your version?
I believe it was 2 hours and like 10 minutes, something like that.
Oh, that was mine. Mine was like 2 hours.
Really?
20. So I think I may have watched the extended as well.
Did you have the scene where Wolverine takes a cigar after he manhandles the dude with the strippers, and then he before he gets like destroyed with the arrows and the the scene I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yep. So he like lights the cigar and it explodes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and there was also the scene where all those guys were going inside that shredder and their blood was spurting out.
That scene specifically with the shredder isn't in to my memory. It's not
so.
Because I was watching that.
I don't remember. I was like, "What the hell? I don't remember seeing this."
So did I. I was like, "What the hell?"
Did your version have it?
No, my version was 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Oh wow. Okay, so there's a whole action scene in the snow where there's like, what do you call it, Anthony? It's like, is it called
a snowplow?
It's a snowplow.
Yeah.
And these guys
get
run over by the snowplow, and their blood spurts out the side of it. It's very big.
You see the blood as well. It's not just like, oh, yep, they're squashed.
It's like too. It's like comes out the side of it.
Yeah. And Yukio's just smiling and laughing and like, haha, funny.
I was like, is this actually M? Because that's fucked up.
Yeah, dude, me too. I was like, whoa, this is not okay.
That from the film. It's like one of my favorite parts. Like that whole sequence. And like you said, the bit with the cigar when he blows it up and they all explode. It was violent, very violent.
That's good though. That's what Wolverine is.
Yeah. But I thought so when I saw that scene. I'm like, is this part of this film I don't remember seeing?
Yeah, no, me too. I was like, that wasn't in the original. I had to look it up, and I was like, yes, it wasn't. It's in the extended cut. I was like, yep. I was sure I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, but there was a lot of F-bombs in this film as well.
I think there was 2 or 3.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there in your version, Callum?
I don't remember.
Okay,
because I think usually with Wolverine movies it's just one, and it's usually like the zinger, right?
Okay.
I mean, in the last film, it was Logan going, "Go fuck yourself." So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's interesting that you saw the other version, Callum, because I feel like, based on what you've said about the differences so far, Anthony, I feel like the extended version is better because it's got so much. It's so much grittier, and the
I would
action.
say,
Yeah.
like, because you also had no subtitles, right?
Mm.
Because apparently a lot of the extended is dialogue between the Japanese characters, which obviously you and I both were just like, well, I don't know what's going on, don't know what they're saying.
There was only 2 scenes where they used subtitles.
Oh wow, there's like 7.
And the rest is like just English dialogue.
Oh no,
Yeah.
there was like 7 scenes for me. There's a lot
Maybe
with
3.
Shinken. There's a lot with
The
Shinken.
maximum I think there would have been 3, but then that was pretty much it.
There was a few that were mixed dialogue as well. Like some of it was Japanese and some of it was English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, actually. That we got more Japanese scenes and more action, more
I think
violence.
The Japanese scenes were most likely in because when they showed like the original version in cinemas, I feel like a lot of people were like, "Oh, okay, he's bad now." You know what I mean? Because those scenes in Japanese with Japanese dialogue probably had like a lot of expositionary stuff to leading up to like the end where he's like, "Ah, I'm actually alive," to be not so much of a twist and more of just like a, "Oh, yep, saw this coming."
Yeah, there's something to be said about choices with which scenes you include and which scenes you don't, with extended and non-extended, and it can really affect the storytelling which way you do it. One big example is Chamber of Secrets. There is a deleted scene that's in the extended version of Chamber of Secrets when Harry goes through the flu powder but ends up in Nocturne Alley, right? You know the scene I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I actually do. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
near the start of the film. So
Yeah.
they're supposed to be going to Diagon Alley, but he ends up in Nocturne Alley because he goes to, like, he just fucks it up.
Yeah, he says it
Diagon
wrong
Alley.
or something. Yeah.
And in the theatrical version, he like his hand gets stuck under the hand that grabs it, and then he walks out the store, and Hagrid finds him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the extended version, you actually meet the shopkeeper, and like the Malfoys walk into the store, and that is your introduction to Lucius, right? The first time you see him, like Malfoy's touching something expensive, and he smacks his hand with his cane and says, "Touch nothing, Draco." And then they have like and then you get like a whole bunch of exposition between him and the shopkeeper, and it's quite interesting stuff from the book about like the sort of Slytherin half of things, and Harry is hiding inside of a coffin, and he can hear the whole thing.
Right.
But they cut that from the theatrical version because when Lucius enters Flourish and Blots, when they're like standing off together, it's actually a much more impactful entrance for him into the series when he walks in and says, "Mr. Potter," and he has that whole face off with Arthur Weasley, and then he puts the book into Ginny's cauldron. It's a much more impactful entrance for the character rather than just Harry inside of a coffin seeing him there.
Be an asshole. Yeah.
So whichever version of the film you watch has a big impact on your first impressions of Lucius Malfoy.
Yeah.
So yeah, extended editions can really change a lot. But yeah. Anyway, anything else we want to say about Yukio?
Nothing else. No, I don't really have else much else to say.
I'll be interested to see if she appears again, or if like all these characters from this Japanese thing just never pop up. I'll be interested. I'm just reading here. Apparently, she's meant to sort of resemble an anime character.
Oh, well, there you go. With the hair and the fucking fringe thing and whatever.
Horrible. We've already sort of touched on the next character, but I'll say her name anyway. Jean Grey.
Surprising that she was in this film. I was really shocked. I was like, wait, what? Why is she here? She's dead. And I'm like, oh, it's a dream within a dream. And I do like the theme throughout the whole film of like him wanting her to stay, and then that's referenced at the end when Logan's like, "No, I need to stay here," and be the soldier basically.
Yeah,
And then Jean walks out of the
I really like the last scene with Jean Grey when she walks out the door.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's very.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the last time Logan has a full story revolving around like the loss of Jean. I would say, because I think that's a very closing that chapter of his like story. I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a very poetic ending, and I was very satisfied by it. The entire Jean Grey section of this film I thought was very well handled, and actually makes Last Stand feel better than it is.
Yeah, it doesn't save it at all, but it's something.
Yeah, what did you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I found her appearance kind of like, oh shit, it's Jean Grey from X3, the bad one. But it was kind of like you said it when you said this was almost like a retelling of like the whole thing, like a soft reboot. I felt like she was that little link to the previous movies. Like, just we know they were shit, but like keep those in mind. That's what's on Logan's mind. Well, that's the kind of shit he's carrying with him. So when you relate to him, you're like, oh, yep. Like, I remember him killing her, and now I know that how he felt about that, and he must feel horrible because he's in love with her and all that crap.
And I think on rewatching this film for this time round, I think this was the biggest thing I took away from it, because the first time I watched it in theaters in 2013, I wasn't really knowledgeable. I hadn't really watched the X-Men films in ages at that point. So when I watched this in theaters, I couldn't really remember who she was, like, because I hadn't watched X-Men in like 5 years.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like, oh, I don't know who that is, but I can sort of pick up on the fact that he was in love with her. But now watching the films in order, I have so much more context, and I really, really like the scenes with her. I think they're very well handled, and are great for his character development. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was just very good.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's I like how it sort of closes the book on the previous films. It does it respectfully.
Yeah, I feel like this film, like we mentioned, it feels like the transitional film that is now going into a new story within the X-Men universe. Because I felt like the war was part of the first set of films, and now the last couple have felt like a transition into something different, which I'm all for, because I was not the biggest fan of the first kind of set of films. So hopefully this means that some films are better than those.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got high hopes for Deadpool and Logan. And I'm interested to see what happens with Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that's the one I've been, in a sense, most interested in out of this entire series.
Yeah. Seems very interesting. It's like, I really don't know what's going to happen. I think that's quite an exciting thing.
I have no idea what's going to go on.
Obviously, Anthony has seen it, but I think the other day, Anthony, you said that like Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix morph together in your head, so you're not really...
Yeah, I think with my memory being as it is, because the last time I've seen like any of those has been a very long time. Dark Phoenix, I haven't seen at all, so it'll be very interesting rewatching the two of them and then watching Dark Phoenix for the first time and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, because I feel like Days of Future Past, I know it's a time travel film, obviously, but it's one of the ones out of this series, I think probably I would even say, out of all the ones we've done so far, it's the first one where I'm like, I really don't know what's going to happen. I think that's quite exciting.
Yeah,
because with the 6 films that we've done so far, I've always had like this is basically what happens, because I've seen X-Men 1, 2, and 3 before, and with the Origins ones, it was like, this is an Origins for Wolverine, this is an Origins for Professor X and Magneto.
Yeah, you could kind of fill in the blanks.
And I'd seen the Wolverine before as well.
Yeah.
But with the next couple, like Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, I really don't know. It's a mystery to me, and that's interesting. It could be terrible, but who knows? Maybe it's good. But yeah. So we'll move on to the next character, who was Kenichiro Harada, who was the former lover of Mariko. I believe he was the one that was betrothed to her, right?
Yep.
The Arrow boy.
Yeah. I mean, he was just a piece of shit, wasn't he? He's a bastard.
It was just kind of like, oh yes,
weird.
He shoots arrows, very cool. Oh, here he is again. Okay, that's it. Yeah. And now he's dead. Okay.
It's like a mix of Hawkeye and Yujiro Takahashi.
Yeah, it's I didn't know what to think of him, because 1 minute I'm like, oh, is he a good person trying to help out, or is he a bad person trying to do something bad? I'm like, Do
you think it was a bit convenient that he landed in a swimming pool?
Oh yeah. So it's like, yeah.
Wait, is that the same dude?
Pretty sure it is.
No, isn't there?
No, I think the guy who he chucked off of the Arrow guy was like who Mariko was like friends with as a kid, and the guy he chucked off of into the swimming pool was the person that Mariko was in an engaged marriage with.
Yeah, they're two different people. That's two different characters.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like he's the.
Oh yes, no, sorry, I'm thinking of Noboru Mori. Yeah, the Minister of Justice.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, that's the guy who threw off the roof, isn't it?
Yes, into the swimming pool.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
And that was pretty much his character as well. It was just kind of like,
I know exactly the one I'm thinking of now. Yeah, so Kenichiro Harada was the guy who came to the funeral and was on the roof with the arrows. I remember now.
The weird dude on the roof. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so his presence was predominantly in the action scenes from memory.
Yeah.
And I suppose he's kind of was the purpose of him being a former lover of Mariko just so that like she had her Jean Grey? I don't know.
It was weird because I didn't know whether to think he was a good person or a bad person. I really didn't know.
Talking before about like not knowing who was who in the structure of things, I think that was the one character that I got confused by. I was a bit like, where does he fit into all of this?
Yeah.
But yeah, does he die in the snowplow scene?
He dies by the Silver Samurai.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
He gets stabbed by it and then dies.
That's right. Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem like anyone cares really. But Logan was trying to get the sword working, and meanwhile this guy is dying.
Yeah. Even Mariko went over to him and he was just like, I'm dead. And she's like, okay, see ya.
I'm
I don't
sorry.
really give a shit anyways, so.
And speaking about the sword working as well, I do really like the whole thing of you have to hold it with 2 hands. I did really like that.
I thought that was cool.
Because that ties back to the scene in the pit in Nagasaki. The fact that he remembers I love that. And it really ties into that whole Japanese culture. But yeah. Apparently the actor Will Yun Lee, who played Kenichiro Harada, said he underwent rigorous sword training for the film. As do a lot of the actors, I assume. Should we move on to the next character?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, so I suppose, seeing as I brought him up, we'll go for Noboru Mori, who is a corrupt minister of justice who was engaged to Mariko.
He was slob dickhead character, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there wasn't much to him. It was just like, I'm getting married because of the money.
Yeah. Sorry, he's the guy, Callum, that reminded me of Yujiro Takahashi. Yeah. But yeah, the scene where Logan throws him out of the building is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that whole thing of the father basically offered up his daughter just so he could get in political power with this guy.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, he basically was only there to serve that side of the plot, just to make you feel for Mariko and despise Shingen.
Yeah.
Then we had... Oh, Anthony, I think I'm going to let you go first on this, seeing as you brought her up before.
Oh, well.
We have Dr. Green, aka Viper.
Okay. I'm just going to check something before I open my mouth. Oh, yep. Okay, cool. So, Viper, the character in the comics, that's part of the Serpent Society. The Serpent Society is actually, I believe, mainly a Captain America villain organization.
Yeah, it
So
says on the
very-
Wikipedia. It says on the Wikipedia page that she's a Hydra agent.
Well, it's very interesting that Fox was like, "Hey, let's chuck another character, another villain, and who should we put? Oh, I know. Let's go to the Marvel side, and oh wait, we can't use Hydra because Marvel Studios have actually already pinned that. Why don't we get like one specific little character from that and coin her into our movie?" In my opinion, right? Was she not there, the story would have made a little bit more sense. It wouldn't have made like a lot more. It wouldn't have been like, oh my god, I understand everything. But it would have just been a lot cleaner, a lot tighter, and a lot nicer. To this day, on rewatch, right? I'm rewatching and I'm like, what purpose does this woman serve? Next to none is my answer. Next to none. She's just there because she's there.
Feels very out of place.
Anything she does that is quote unquote integral to the story, you could give that to any of the other characters and it would have made more sense than it did as it is. I don't understand why. Actually, I do understand why. Fox wanted money. They were like, shit, they put Hydra into First Avenger. We should put one of those in our movies and see what happens. Had they just kept Silver Samurai, that would have worked fine, honestly. But nah, let's chuck another one. I don't know why they put her in.
Do you reckon there's this is a batshit crazy theory, but do you reckon there was a trade where it's like they got to use Viper if MCU got to use one of their characters, and that's why Shingen appears in Endgame?
Oh no, it's just it's. I mean, clearly we know who got the good end of that deal, but yeah, it's just a very kind of like, let's throw this character in too, and it's like, well, why would you do that? What purpose does that serve, if any? Because I'm sure there's none.
She felt very out of place. I don't mind her, but in terms of just where she fits into the film, she feels very shoehorned and doesn't really belong. Callum, did you have any different?
Needed.
Yeah,
She
did you have any
wasn't needed.
difference? No, well, obviously you didn't have any difference, did you?
No.
The actress is again odd, very odd.
I didn't
performance.
like her. I thought I thought she had a terrible performance, and I thought her dialogue was pretty awful.
Mm. It was weird.
I
I
didn't
don't know.
like her at all.
What was her accent?
American.
Right, it didn't sound American. It sounded like cross between a whole bunch of different accents. It was weird.
It was probably a cross between a whole bunch of different American accents.
Right.
Because I think she's a Russian actress. So
Ah, okay. Yep, that's what it is. I knew that. I knew there was something off about it. It just sounded weird.
Yeah, I didn't care
She's
for her. I didn't
probably
think she was
she's
important.
probably my she's probably my biggest negative with this film, honestly. Like even more than the samurai.
Because I just don't feel like if you take her out, I don't think anything changes apart from a couple of details.
Honestly,
Like
think
Logan
probably the
not
film
be
would be
able
better.
to, Logan not be able to regenerate properly is probably the reason why she's there. So like,
Yeah, but
I
this,
guarantee you could have done something better to get around
yeah,
that.
you could have just been like one of the I don't know, fucking one of the scientists had a thing to and then you could be like, well, because what's his name? The Yoshida, the old Ishiro Yoshida,
yeah,
I don't know, like had a piece of his skin or something, and then that would have made like a little bit more sense than fucking like, oh, who's that? Oh, it's some doctor that he found in America. Like, what the fuck?
yeah. Is that
There's not
scene
even
where
like
she?
a proper explanation. It's just like, oh, she's just a doctor he knows from America. Oh, cool. No point to the character then.
There's that scene she has with I think it's Kenichiro Harada in the alleyway, and I was like, this feels so much like filler. Like these are
Yeah,
like
it does.
these are like C characters in this film.
I hated that scene because I didn't like the performances. I thought it was pointless.
Yeah, they felt like two tertiary characters in one scene, and it was like, oh, this feels very insignificant. It's like the kind of thing you get in a TV show. It would be so much better had they cut her out completely and added in the violent scenes to the theatrical cut.
Mhm.
I felt bad for you, Callum, because you missed out on some good stuff.
Mm.
It was horrifying to watch for me, like in a good way.
Yeah.
But yeah, nah, she was shit. Oh yeah, her actress's name is like Svetlana Kodchenkova or something like that. So yeah, she must be Russian. But yeah, no, any scene she was in, I was just like, I don't really care.
It's
Move on.
because I just felt like you don't care because her performance is awful. I think her dialogue is the worst in the film to me.
Yeah, well, it is. It was,
Again, she just feels very out of place. Doesn't belong in the
is.
film.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fox doing a Sony, aren't they? Aviarad. Oh, I wonder if did Aviarad work on this film?
I don't think he works. I think he's stopped after like Origins. I think was the last one he did. But I might be wrong on that. I don't think he did First Class.
God,
That
that explains why that film's so shit. Because it's David Benioff and Aviarad. Now, I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes in this entire X-Men franchise, and one that blew my mind when I saw it in the theaters, and that is the post-credits scene with Magneto and Professor X.
It's great.
This is the one I was talking about, Callum. I think on a few reviews before, I was like, there's a post-credit scene that you haven't seen that I have that I'm waiting for you to see.
Yeah.
And this is it. This was actually, I'm pretty sure this is the first post-credit scene I ever saw in a theater, and I loved it.
It's a great post-credit scene.
It's a perfect setup for Days of Future Past. I remember sitting there because I was with two of my friends who loved X-Men and still do, and I remember the moment when all the people froze, Like, my friend let out a gasp because he's like, "There's only one person that can do that." But yeah, what did you think, Callum, when you saw
I
it?
thought it was really good. I thought it was really, really good. And it was nice to actually see Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart as the characters again, because it has literally been a while. So it's been like, obviously it's been since Last Stand, which I think we reviewed like a month ago now. So
because we got them in First Class, but they were completely different actors and at
yeah, it was different actors.
different points of their life. You know, they were like in their 20s.
Yeah, but regardless of the continuity errors, it's been a while since we've had like the actual
because
original versions.
Professor X was at the end of Origins for like one scene.
Standing and bold.
Mm.
But yeah, that scene was brilliant, and that scene gives me a glimmer of hope for Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Please be good, please.
But hey, but also those two actors were in Last Stand, so.
Yep.
Yeah. But it is a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, there's just an energy to that scene. It feels modern. It feels like you've taken the characters from the original trilogy and you've brought them into a modern context. It's got an air of mystery about it.
Yeah.
Anthony, what are your memories of that scene?
I remember seeing that scene because these X-Men movies were ones where it was before my time as like a comic book fan. So they'd kind of come out and I'd hear about them from friends. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. I don't give a shit. Until Wolverine Origins, which I originally downloaded an illegal copy of where the CGI was not completed. But I had a fun time watching it. Anyways, I got into the X-Men trilogy as it was. And I was like, oh, these are okay, I guess. And then the end credit scene for this one came, and I was sitting with my dad. I was like, oh shit, it's the old dudes, and he was just like, yeah, it is. Look, and I watched it, and that scene where it has like they've all stopped, and then you have Ian McKellen in the hat, and he kind of looks up at Wolverine, and he's just like, yep, you know.
Mm.
I was like, oh shit, oh it's big boy time. It's big boy time now.
Yeah, it's a good hype one, isn't it?
It is.
It's like the boys are back for something big. Big time travel film. Hopefully it's good, but who knows? Maybe it'll be shit.
In terms of like the releases of these films, it's the first time you've seen Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart as the characters properly since Last Stand, which came out in 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 7 years.
Yeah. So that's a long time.
And with that comes like better CG as well. So it's always like, oh yes.
Yeah, you don't have clay-faced Patrick Stewart.
Oh.
But you can tell Ian McKellen looks noticeably older as well.
Oh yeah.
This is around the time that he was doing The Hobbit. As opposed to it's crazy to think that the X-Men films came out relatively like in terms of the years they came out pretty solidly. It's weird to think that when he started he was filming Fellowship of the Ring. But at this time he was filming The Hobbit. Like it's in my mind that is odd.
Considering how far apart those trilogies are.
Yeah. They're like 10 years apart. At least. But yes, I thought that post-credit scene was excellent.
Yeah.
And I'm begging and hoping that the next film doesn't disappoint me because I'm ready for it. This is the first time that I'm actually like going into an X-Men film thinking like this could be actually very good. Like there's potential. And then even if it does disappoint me, at the very least, I'll have Deadpool and Logan to look forward to. But
Yeah, it's good. The funny thing is, it's like it's gonna have a whole bunch of characters. It'll feel like a big event because it's gonna have so many like different characters and different actors in it that haven't been together for a long time or have never been together in these X-Men films. Because it's a time travel film, we can only assume that we'll have characters from First Class and we'll have characters from the original trilogy in this film. So
probably Origins as well.
yeah, I wouldn't be too fussed if there weren't, but yeah,
Who knows?
Hey, if they make them good characters, then I won't be that bothered.
Yeah, but like, if you're saying to me that the next film is going to be like a combination of this film, First Class, and it's going to have Professor X and Magneto in it, like as played by those actors, like, and it's got time travel, like that sounds cool. That sounds like it's got potential. With this like new version of Logan. But yeah, what I'm hoping is that we don't get some of the other characters that I don't like. For example, like someone like Rogue, like just don't want to ever see again. Because
I really want to be bothered not seeing Rogue again. God, what a pointless arc she had in retrospect now.
Yeah. Okay. So this film was written by. It's only got the screenplay on here. Doesn't have story, so I can only tell you what that is. It is written by Mark Bomback and Scott Frank, and it's based on the comic Wolverine by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller. So Mark Bomback, let's have a look. Mark Bomback has done Live Free or Die Hard. He did Race to Witch Mountain. He did Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He did Total Recall. He did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Oh dear, he did some work on 50 Shades of Grey. That's unfortunate. He also did some work on the new Mummy from 2017. And he did Walk of the Planet of the Apes. So,
nice.
There you go.
I rate that movie. That's a good fucking movie.
So yeah, so he did those. So interestingly, his like career was very scarce until 2007. He just suddenly out of nowhere got lots of stuff.
It's like up down, up down.
Well, I mean, he has a film from 1998 called The Nightcaller, and then he's got one from 2004 called Godsend. But then after that, he has one like every single year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He knew the right people, it would seem.
And then you've got Scott Frank, who was the other writer. Frank did writing work on...
He did Batman. There was a Batman comic. Frank Miller. He writes good comics too.
I'm not talking about Frank Miller, I'm talking about Scott Frank.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not talking about the comic writer.
Yeah, I was like, yo, Frank Miller, my nigga.
Yeah, no, that Frank Miller name sounds familiar. I've heard that before. But in terms of Scott Frank, I don't really recognize any of the other films he's done.
Right.
He did Marley and Me.
Oh, yep.
I've seen that. Owen Wilson, man, he's got a dog. Wow. He directed an episode of Shameless.
Okay.
Okay. So the they're not like top tier like famous writers, but they have some accolades.
They get the job done.
Yeah. And I think maybe they have like a passion for Japanese culture or something. I'll just look up if there's anywhere that says on IMDb it's the same. It's just the same names for the writers. I'm not sure if it even says there's any others, but yeah, based on that, maybe they've got like a passion for Japanese storytelling or something like that. I think they did a pretty good job. Aside from the studio interference, which is always a problem with these films, I thought for a small-scale character piece for Wolverine in a different environment with a bit of variation, and also as a reboot, but also calling back to some things in the past, I think they did a solid job, and they were very well focused. Thumbs up, I would say.
Yeah.
Not like oh, you win all these awards, but just like good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was serviceable.
The film was directed by James Mangold. Now, that is a name I've heard before. James Mangold. Let's have a look. I don't recognize any of the films he's directed. I do know of the film Ford versus Ferrari, but I haven't seen it.
I think he did Logan as well.
Yeah, he did. A lot of the
Yeah,
people
I
that
thought
worked
so.
on this film worked on Logan as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll save that discussion for when we get to that review.
He has, from this chart, he has much more of a role in Logan than he does here. Because in The Wolverine, he's just a director, whereas in Logan, he's a director, a writer, and a producer.
Yeah, he was like the man. Because it was when the credits rolled for The Wolverine, I was interested because I actually didn't know that he directed The Wolverine. So when I saw his name, I was like, oh shit, that he did Logan as well. Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. I don't really recognize his TV stuff, but in terms of like cinematography and direction, I mean, like we said, some of the editing was a bit slashed, but in terms of the way the film looked, I really liked it. I know you guys pointed out the bad green screen, but I just didn't really notice most of that. But in terms of the aesthetic of the lighting and the shots, I thought it was very crisp and very immersive. Great atmosphere. Unlike some of the other X-Men films, which felt quite grey and stagnant. Like X-Men 2 had that problem where it looked very stagnant.
Yeah.
This one was very modern and atmospheric and had the sort of... It was a mix of Japanese culture, but had a bit of Blade Runner in it, but it was still an X-Men film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked the direction. It's not like... Again, it's not like Alfonso Cuarón good, but it's like, you know, it's good. It's good direction. Can't wait to... I think... What was it? The first class review, Callum? We had like a whole tangent when we just wanked off Prisoner of Azkaban for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be a hell of a review. Like when we get to like Harry Potter, those reviews are gonna be like 4 hours. I'm pretty sure, because there's so much to talk about with those. Because I've watched all of those films like 20 times, so
Oh yeah, same.
I can literally talk about them for hours. I just flashing my eyes across Wikipedia. Apparently, this film was delayed because of the earthquake and tsunami that happened in Japan in 2011.
Oh.
So apparently this was a delayed film, which is interesting.
So this was probably filmed around like 2011 or something.
Well, it was meant to be, yeah, but I think they had to delay it because of that. So they did a lot of it in 2012.
Yeah.
Man, imagine that. Imagine if they were filming it like during that event. That would have been a disaster. The music of this film was done by a man called Marco Beltrami, which obviously I think sounds Italian, but he is an American. He's from New York, though, so Italian-American. He did the scores for Scream, Scream 2, Halloween H20, Scream 3, Dracula 2000. What else is there? Resident Evil, Blade 2, Terminator 3, iRobot, Hellboy, Triple X Out of the Union, Um, what else is there? Live Free or Die Hard, Max Payne, Amusement, The Hurt Locker, Soul Surfer, Scream 4, The Thing,
Jesus, all the Scream movies.
A Good Day to Die Hard, World War Z. Geez, he's done a lot. He did the one for Fantastic Four 2015. He did Hitman Agent 47. He also did it for Logan, so he'll be back for that. And Ford vs Ferrari. And for television, he did Goodbye Casanova, Lucifer, and the modern Twilight Zone. So he's done a lot. He has done a lot. I thought that his score in this film was really good because it was more laid back and it suited the film's tone. There was a lot of more like synthy stuff, but it wasn't too reserved. It was. I liked it. I would say. I would say the score was very comfortable and really fit in with the film. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, you agree?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I'd probably say the same too.
Yeah. There's one bit in particular. It was like it was like some of the shots of the tower, and there was this sort of electronic noise that was coming out of it, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like in general, the direction and the music was a really immersive experience, which feels very different for an X-Men film because most X-Men films aren't like that, from what I've seen. So I feel like that's a step in the right direction from an aesthetics point of view. Anything else we want to say about the direction of music before we move on to the trivia?
No.
You, Anthony?
Nah, I'm good. Let's go.
Okay, so let's go to the trivia. Here we go. So we've got... Oh, not too many. I've only got 64 trivias for this film. That's a lot less than we usually get. What was it for for Infinity War? It was like 200 or 300. Something ridiculous.
I mean, to be fair, that's a way bigger film with
That's true.
a shit ton more really big actors and stuff.
Mm. You know what was a Doctor Who episode that had a lot of trivia? Was the Christmas Invasion. And the reason why is because that's the episode that's Tennant's first. So obviously it's quite a landmark.
Yeah.
But also it's mainly to do with the scene where he's picking his costume because there's like 100 different references in there to other things.
Right. Yeah.
Scene. So that was quite fun to read. Young Yoshida gives Wolverine a samurai sword with 6 kanji letters engraved on it. These kanji read, never died, never aged, never destroyed. This is appropriate for Wolverine.
Yeah. That's cool.
Hugh Jackman said that for his shirtless scenes in this movie, he wanted to look as ripped and cut as possible. So he adopted a dehydration diet, where he did not consume any liquid for 36 hours before filming his shirtless shots. He said it made him feel headachy and faint, but he was pleased with the results, as dehydrating tightening everything up and gave him this exaggerated muscle definition and vascularity that he wanted to show in the shirtless scenes. Well, it certainly worked. Because he's jacked. He's huge in this film.
I remember reading something along those lines of he did this really dangerous diet where he'd always have headaches and dehydrated and shit. And I remember reading it because this was obviously when the movie had come out, and I was reading that and I was like, fuck man, I could not do any job if it was oh yeah, just put your health
Not drink any water for a day and a half.
Fuck that. Yeah, like I'd be like, no, I'd rather not.
Um, to prepare for the role, Hugh Jackman contacted The Rock for advice. I've already read all that stuff. Wolverine's claws were redesigned for this film, and the older version was a straighter design, but the new claws have more cuts and angles to them, allowing them to reflect light easier. Also, the claws come out of the hand lower towards the palm, which makes more sense from a scientific perspective. The older claws came out a bit beyond the knuckles. The new claws appear like they've come out from in between the fingers, which means they could retract straight back into the forearm. I like that.
Yeah.
I thought the claws in this film looked excellent. Like I remember when I saw it in the first time in the theaters, like, I noticed the claws a lot, like on the big screen in 3D. I was like, wow, they've really upgraded the look of these claws. Especially the scene when Samurai cuts them off and drills into them.
Yeah. One of the more cringeworthy scenes for pain.
Mm.
Yeah.
An alternate ending was filmed where Yukio presents Logan with a box that contains his yellow Wolverine mask from the comic books. The scene is presented as a bonus feature on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I heard that was a thing, and I was expecting it at the end of the film when they were on the airplane.
Was
So
it
I
in
was
the
like, oh.
extended?
No, it wasn't. It was a deleted scene, and a lot of people were real pissed that they didn't actually run with that.
Mm. Yeah, it would have been cool to see him just once in the classic Wolverine suit.
It wasn't him wearing it. It was just him opening a suitcase with the mask. But like obviously that still would have gotten around about the same reaction, you know. There's I know the scenes on YouTube and it's online everywhere, but like it's one of those scenes that everyone goes, "Oh fuck, they could have made a lot more had they had that in."
It's it's much better than the scene where Betty Ross passes Edward Norton the purple pants.
Ah well.
Jeez.
What a garbage movie. Gave me a headache watching.
Yep. Bruce. Josh is still dead from that film. Oh dear. Wonder when he's going to recover. It's been like
probably
been
never.
like 6 months already, or whatever, however long it's been.
It's been a solid 4 months.
Yeah. 4 out of 10. 4 months for the rating we gave it. Hugh Jackman said that with his film, he finally achieved the physique he was wanted. Oh, fucking, we've already read all about this. We know you were big. Shut up. We get it. We've seen the posters. You're absolutely huge.
Yeah, thankfully Avirad did not do this film because I'm on the credits now.
Yeah. Christ.
God, if Avirad had done this film, he'd thrown in so many villains. What else would he have thrown in, Anthony?
Sabretooth. Put in the Blob as well.
Juggernaut.
Yeah, put in Juggernaut. That'll look cool.
Yeah, in a film that's about like subtlety in Japanese culture, you've got I'm a Juggernaut, bitch.
Put in Omega Red as well, and Lady Deathstrike, and Mystique, and William Stryker. Make him come back. Put Dakin as well.
And Storm.
Shit, why not?
Just
the whole
a
Weapon
silly
X
character.
program again. Put in the Sentinels too. Put in Hulk for some good measure. Do him really bad CGI though. Doesn't matter. Hurry it up. Make money.
I just put in Iron Man. Kevin Feige is like, no. Yeah, I was saying like how this film has similarities to Iron Man 3. Like they literally put Iron Man in it. Oh dear.
Here's your Iron Man. It's Iron Man 3.
Guillermo del Toro expressed interest in directing. He directed. Hang on a second. I recognize that name. Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah. Yeah,
He did
did.
Pan's Labyrinth, and he did the original Hellboy.
Yeah.
And he did Pacific Rim as well.
The good one.
Yeah. Guillermo del Toro expressed interest in directing, being a fan of the Japanese saga and the Wolverine comics. He met with Ganopoulos and Hugh Jackman about directing, but ultimately he decided he did not wish to spend 2 to 3 years of his life working on this film. That would have been interesting, actually, if he had directed this, because his direction is very creative. Because obviously, I mean, like Pan's Labyrinth is like for a media studies person is like just the best. Like Mr. Ephraim showed it to us in media studies, and he's like, "This is the best foreign language film I've ever seen. So much symbolism."
Yeah.
It's like one of those films that you can watch without subtitles and still enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
Unlike when like when I watched Dark World and I couldn't understand what Malekith was saying. But oh well, it doesn't matter. Vengeance. According to Hugh Jackman, Wolverine being surrounded by death while being unable to die due to his healing factor is a major theme in this film. He realizes everyone he loves dies and his whole life is full of pain, so it's better that he just escapes. He can't die really, he just wants to get away from everything. That, when that was happening, I was getting flashbacks to like School Reunion when the 10th Doctor's talking about like his companions. When he's like, you die and I regenerate, and I don't want to see you die. That's why I ditch you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He didn't say like that, but
I don't want to see you fucking
Here's
die,
my-
so I'm just gonna fuck off. See ya.
It's
You
more
wither
like,
and you die.
wither and you die. That's the curse of the Time Lords. Something like that. Rose Tyler. Hello, Sarah Jane. I used to have so much mercy.
Hello, father.
You are no son of mine. But how will you do that from beyond the grave? Oh dear.
You could say that I've crushed the party.
No, I'm not ready to be a Cyberman.
No. The Age of Steel quotes now.
Cybus. I fucking love when the Doctor laughs.
People.
You can trust me. You can trust me on this.
Oh yes.
But we've surrendered. You are incompatible. But we've surrendered. Listen to me. This is surrender. You will be deleted. I was so heartbroken to find out on that live stream that someone, apparently a reactor on YouTube, gave that Age of Steel a 4 and gave Idiot's Land.
They're dumb. Oh, I think I know the YouTuber you're on about.
They gave Age of Steel a 4 and Idiot's Lantern an 8.
Oh, you're dumb. I'm sorry, but Age of Steel is not a bad story. It's just its particular tastes. It's still a very well told story.
Yeah, it's just like the suspension of disbelief with the Cybermen being slow. I will admit I can understand where Jake comes from with that, but it's not bad. Come on,
No,
it's
like the overall story is great, I'd say, and the characters that are great.
Yeah.
Jack, Pete, Mickey are great in it. So
an Idiot's Lantern is shit.
oh, it's so fucking awful.
You mess with my Rose.
You're nothing, you are.
Oh dear. Feed me. She was a filthy woman. A filthy, filthy woman. I'll bloody well hit my children if I want to. I am talking and I'm not listening. Oh dear.
Oh god.
Trash. I used to think that story was like meh, but now it's fucking bad.
It's probably the least rewatched episode for me. It's either that or like stuff from Series 7 and Blink. I don't watch a lot, even though I think it's great.
Yeah, it's one of those ones you gotta watch once in a blue moon.
Yeah, it's like once every couple years I watch it.
Because you don't want to ruin it for yourself.
No.
Although Anthony already had Blink ruined him for. Hey, Anthony.
Oh well.
Because he watched it with someone that screamed at every jump scare.
Even though not every jump scare is scary.
No, I know, but they were still just like, ah, and I'm like, shut up, I can't focus.
It's funny because that person you watched it with had already seen it before.
Ah.
Oh, well. Ah, fake scream for the reaction. Shut the fuck up, please.
Nah, his best reaction was when he saw Rose return, and I filmed it. That was fucking gold.
Rose, you fuck!
I picked another stupid ape. Oh dear.
You just assume I don't dance.
I'm not stupid. You could have fooled me. Oh dear. And then he was in Thor: Dark World. Anyway, a cynical James Mangold was shocked that Fox agreed to let him end the movie the way he wanted.
Oh wow. What, with a massive CGI silver robot? What's he talk about the ending in general with his
I think he
claws getting cut off?
I think he means after that,
Okay.
probably.
What, with the,
Well,
like...
I'd assume that the studio were like, "Hey, we need you to do this because we got Days of Future Past coming."
Oh,
Right.
that ending. Right.
Okay, maybe not then. Maybe it was the stupid robot.
Well, because I would assume because he's getting his claws chopped off, and now he's
Yeah.
back to his bone claws. If you noticed that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I feel, again, very similar to Iron Man 3. I feel like that's just going to be like with the suits blowing up, and then you get to Age of Ultron and they're all back.
Yeah.
It's funny because this film and Iron Man 3 came out in the same year, 2013. Yet they have a lot of similarities. Um... For the bullet train fight, the actors and stunt performers were filmed on wires above a set piece surrounded by green screen. The moving background came from filming on an elevated freeway in Tokyo. The visual effects artist got the background from filming with a rig and 8 Red Epic cameras angled at 45 degrees. Filming at 60 kilometers an hour, the footage was then sped up to be 300 kilometers an hour. So it was quite an ambitious scene, wasn't it? But yeah, watching it on a small screen for me, I loved it. Like I found the impact of the action was very good in that scene for me. Like I loved when like they jumped and then they just rolled along the top of it. Apparently the mid-credit sequence was shot on set of Days of Future Past.
Yes, yeah.
Ah,
And it's written by Simon Kinberg, who I think did Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Since he speaks fluent Italian, Hal Yamanshi dubbed himself for the Italian version. Well, that's cool.
yeah. Don't have to hire like another actor. You're just like, no,
Yeah.
I got this.
I feel bad for like those other language versions where they like have to see a dubbed version. And it just sounds like the sound and
Yeah,
the mouth movements are nothing like it.
yeah.
Mhm.
That would be a bit strange, but I guess that's why like it's known as Hollywood, right? Like American kind of.
Yeah,
Whereas, like obviously in India they've got Bollywood and like
yeah.
you know.
The thing is, like, there's a lot of people like in those countries that watch Hollywood films anyway. Like, there's
Yeah.
the amount of people that watch Endgame that probably don't even know a word of English
Yeah.
because it's a spectacle. I mean, it's the same
Yeah.
thing with
What
Avatar.
is, yeah.
Like, Avatar is a visual experience.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like this story or anything. It's just like, whoa,
Yeah.
look.
And I think also in this day and age, like the more like populated and like I would say richer cities in the world tend to have like a basic understanding of English because it seems to be quite universal now.
Yeah, well, I think it is one of the biggest not biggest, but like widely spoken languages.
Yeah, I think because I know what you mean because there's more people in the world that speak Mandarin than there are people that speak English.
Yeah,
But
that's why I didn't want to say like a more wider known.
Hmm.
You know, like instead of
Yeah.
a lot of
It's
people,
not-
because I know
it's-
like you said, there's more people who speak Mandarin than there are English, but I feel English speaking people are more far spread.
well, I would say that English is the most common second language in the world.
Yeah,
Either English or Spanish, I think, is the most
Yeah.
common. Because in terms of fluently, there's more people that speak Mandarin than English, but there's more people in the world that understand English more than Mandarin, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, but yeah. I was just thinking. I know this is a very minor thing, but I was thinking about some of the scenes where they swap between Japanese and English. Is there any sort of plot hole in the sense that there are Japanese characters that speak to each other in English? Or is that all accurate?
How do you mean?
Well, is there any scenes in the film where you think maybe like it realistically would they speak to each other in English?
Oh, no, absolutely not. But it's done for like, because it's a film, and the majority of your population watching are obviously English speakers. So it's like, oh, for added drama, let's have them say this part in English, so that the English speakers and possibly children who aren't really reading or don't give a shit about the words on screen hear him say like, "You're not getting a shred of my money," or whatever he said, you know, and then because that adds impact. You go, oh shit, this is what he's saying.
Yeah, because with subtitles, as you understand what they say, but you don't quite capture the energy of the performance, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Um, Geez, my cat's skeleton is very like sticking out. I think she's maybe a bit skinny.
Feed your cat.
I do. I feed her like 3 times a day, and she's still hungry.
Your cat is malnourished.
No, she's just got hyperthyroidism.
Oh well.
Wolverine's response after being asked, "How did you know there was a pool down there?" "I didn't." It's a reference to the James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever, where the gangster quips, "I didn't know there was a pool down there," after throwing Plenty O'Toole out of the window. Interesting. James Bond reference. I've seen that film, actually, Diamonds Are Forever. It's like one of the late Sean Connery ones. The taxi sign on the roof of the taxi standing outside the Love Hotel in Tokyo has the X-Men logo on it.
Oh.
I didn't see that. Interesting.
The bolo created for Trinity in The Matrix is reused in this film. One of the ninjas uses it with an axe attached to the end in the Ice Village sequence.
I would have seen that.
It's like how there was like that food truck that was in Avengers that was also in another film
Mm.
that was starring someone that was in the Avengers.
Yeah, like a little nod
I think
to
it
their
was
performance.
Chris Evans or something. Early drafts had Logan as the only mutant character.
Why didn't they stick with that?
Because they needed exposition lady to say, "I know when you die," and they need Viper to be like, "Money, money, money, money." Oh, here we go. Going back to something I said before. Ian McKellen's cameo as Magneto marks the first time in 10 years that he had played Magneto and Gandalf in the same year. The last time being X2 and Return of the King, while this movie was released the same year as The Desolation of Smaug. Busy man. Hey. This was filmed over a 17-week shoot, with 13 weeks filmed in Australia and 4 weeks shot in Japan.
Australia.
Australia. Easy access to Hugh Jackman. Jessica Biel was offered the role of Viper.
That would have been worse.
I can't remember who she is.
Jessica Biel. She's in The Illusionist, she's in Next, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Total Recall.
I don't think I've seen any of those.
I've seen Total Recall. She's in BoJack Horseman.
No. I haven't
As
seen that either.
herself. She's in BoJack Horseman as herself. And it's a very... Like, the first joke with her is funny, but she's in every fucking joke, so it just gets old quick.
Hmm. Yeah, whatever. The first X-Men movie and the first Fox/Marvel movie to be released in 3D and IMAX. Interesting. Maybe after the Avengers, they're like, yeah, money. I remember there was this phase, yeah, because this was like the second phase of 3D being a big thing.
Yeah.
Because like there was the first phase with like Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl with like the red and blue glasses, but then there was like a second phase with the black glasses.
Yeah.
And I remember I saw Force Awakens in 3D. And I saw this in 3D. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about 3D anymore. I just want to watch the film.
No, yeah. I think
kind of lost its point, you know?
Yeah. Well, because you have films like this which have like multiple scenes that are really good in 3D. But then you have other films, say for example any Harry Potter film, and they're like, hey, let's put this in 3D, and it's like, okay, but why?
Yeah. Imagine watching The Godfather in 3D.
Yeah, no,
so
because
weird.
they do that now. They're just like, oh yeah, sure, we'll put it in 3D too. And none of the scenes are made for 3D. It's just because we can, we will.
It's just I could. It looks like they're right here, so it's really odd.
Hmm. Yeah, and then there's like the whole thing of like when they started having 3D television.
Yeah.
That was weird. but it wasn't designed that way. It was just like, oh yes, we had this automatic thing that makes your television 3D.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
work very well.
No.
Yeah, let's just spend thousands of dollars. Oh, Jessica Henwick and Katie Leung were considered for the roles of Yukio. Katie Leung is the actress who played Cho Chang in Harry Potter.
Oh.
And Jessica Henwick played Nymeria Sand in Game of Thrones, and she's terrible in that. So fuck no, I not like that. She's like the sand snakes are like one of the worst parts of that show. And she's one of them. Fast and Furious and X-Men film franchises have often released them in the same year. I think we've had this before. This one was released the same year as Fast and Furious 6. The movie was being shot on all 6 sound stages at Fox Australia, an international production facility, which was also used for The Matrix, Moulin Rouge, Mission Impossible 2, Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and Superman Returns.
Ugh.
That's not a particularly good bunch of films there. Although I haven't really seen Mission Impossible 2, I don't know what it's like.
I heard Mission Impossible 2 is one of the better ones. But
Well,
I've never seen it either, so
I would
can't-
say the last 2 Mission Impossible films are great.
From what I've heard, apparently Mission Impossible is a franchise that gets better rather than worse. Like
I
most
would say
fran-
so. I haven't
most
seen the
franchises-
originals, but I haven't seen the original ones. But I think the last 2 ones that have come out in the last couple of years are
The reason
great.
why is because it's one of those franchises where the story doesn't really fucking matter at all. Like it's mainly because it's a story that's based around like action and
It's the same with the Fast and Furious franchise. Like it's not that good, but when it's quote unquote good, it's just not shit. Like complete shit.
oh,
Well,
I've heard
I'd argue the last 2, like I said, like the last 2 Mission Impossible movies are actual like really great films. They were very well written, especially Fallout. I watched Fallout like last month, and it's fucking fantastic.
Fallout's the only one I've seen, so I feel like if I watch any others, I'll just be disappointed.
I would say Rogue Nation is great as well. It's the one that is connected with Fallout because it has the same characters in it.
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously confused because it was the first one I saw, so the character
Exactly.
stuff was like, oh,
You need to have watched Mission Impossible Rogue Nation to get
yeah.
that one. Is it Rogue Nation
Yeah.
or is it Ghost Protocol? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Which one's
I do
before
have
Fallout.
kind of just like have a bit of like anti Tom Cruise bias though, because I just don't find. it
No,
believable.
the films that I watched Tom Cruise in are great. I haven't watched Mummy, so
I just don't find it believable as a lead. He's very
he is very kind of like, oh wow, I'm an actor, and you're kind of like, okay,
I
Tom
would
Cruise.
disagree because I think he's great in Fallout. So I disagree with that.
That's fair enough.
I mean, I like the scene in between the trees. That was good.
The one scene.
Yeah, and in terms of the action, the helicopter scene is brilliant.
You know what
Very-
I'd like? I would love a Mauler Unbridled Praise or Fallout. I
Or
think
do you
that's something you could definitely.
Unless he doesn't
I think
like
it's that
it.
good. No,
Then
he,
unless-
he loves it. He's
Oh,
gone on
does he?
record. He thought it was one of the best films of last year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they've all said they even did on EFAP. They did a video of someone who hated it, and they said like your video has made me like it more because of how well constructed it is and how well written it is.
Yeah.
So I would argue it's a fantastic film, probably one of the best films from last year.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy I saw it with said he preferred it to Infinity War, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
I mean, I would
a
say
big praise.
I generally think there's a case for that. I would say there's a case for that. It's just what one you prefer and what's your style. So I think that's more of a praise of Fallout than it is a knock on Infinity War. I'd say.
Okay.
Both are great films.
Yeah, well, again, it might just come down to the fact that I had no fuck all about the series. I only watched it as a standalone film.
Well, I've only seen 2. I've seen the last 2, and that's it. And I think Fallout's great.
Okay. I struggle to remember bits outside of the action. I think Fallout was the film with all the bloody plot twists, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that all makes sense.
I think I remember not liking it because of that. And I told Adam that, and he's like, "How dare you? They were great."
No, I agree with Adam. I thought they were great.
Yeah,
they all make sense. They're all well constructed.
Was Fallout the one where he's on the fucking cliffside with the bike?
Yeah.
And he like crashed? Yeah, okay. I have seen that one.
I think it's
the
that
one
one,
that
right?
came out last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one with It's the one with Superman. It's the one with Superman. And the reason why. Yeah, it's the reason why Fallout was the reason why we had the bad CGI in Justice League.
Yeah, that was right. I remember that. That was disgusting CGI. Like the fact that Warner Bros are like, oh, we'll just keep filming. It'll be fine.
I mean, it was worth it because Justice League on its own is just a bad film. So
yeah. Anyways,
the bad CGI was on top of that.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna have a look at IMDb to see what it's got on that. Fallout has 7.8 on IMDb.
I thought you were going for Justice League. I was like, oh well.
Yeah, I noticed it's on like 93%, I think, or something around that.
Yeah, I think I was just very overwhelmed by how many twists there were that I just found it a bit obnoxious.
I think in the modern age of like film, sometimes it's like if you have loads of twists, some people are like, oh, but then surely one of those don't make sense. But it's like, no, I'm
not saying it doesn't make sense.
No, I'm saying like in the modern like age when someone just sees that there's a film with many twists.
Yeah, because that's someone who's like a straw man. Like, for example, if you've noticed that there's like 10,000 video essays on why The Last Jedi is terrible, and you're like you put it down to the one thing being, oh, it has too many twists and they don't make sense. That means that any film with twists doesn't make sense. Like, I understand what you're saying there. That's not at all what I'm saying. Because I don't think that the twists in that film are anywhere near as bad as Last Jedi. I just didn't enjoy it because of that. Like, it was very...
Because they're done very poorly.
I don't think they're done poorly in Fallout. I just didn't enjoy it that much because of the fact that it had so many. It was very overwhelming. It's like, it's like if you're being first introduced to alcohol and people get you to do like shots. That's what it was like. But anyway, that's a little tangent. I remember, Anthony, you said you thought a lot of the first act of the Fallout was boring.
Yeah, I think I did. I can't fucking remember anything aside from like the scene that you like and the motorbike scene that I like.
The first act is when he jumps out of the helicopter, and it is actually Tom Cruise. Plane.
Oh,
he jumps out of the plane, and that is actually him jumping out of a plane.
Yeah,
it's like the scene from Iron Man 3.
Yeah. And like the aspect ratio changes because they want the whole experience of it.
Oh, that's right.
But unlike in bloody Transformers, it doesn't feel jarring.
Or Life of Pi. Fucking Ang Lee with all his aspect ratios, where he's like, "Oh, we're just gonna flying fish outside of the black bars because it's a 3D film."
Yeah.
Body count for the Wolverine, 127. I would say a lot of that was probably the funeral and also the snowplow. Yeah. The snowplow.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, the snowplow. Fuck.
It was frightening. I think that's all the trivia. So, who wants to go first for conclusion and rating out of 10? All right.
First. The Wolverine is a very stylistic, very entertaining film from start to finish. Its blend of style works really well and doesn't feel jarring at any point. There are a couple bits that I didn't quite like. I think Viper was the biggest thing, and also the final battle became very generic Hollywood final battle, which I wasn't very much a fan of. But everything else I thought was pretty good. Is it my favorite X-Men film so far? Probably not. I still really liked First Class. I thought it was a really, really fun film, and I didn't have really any major problems with it. So I'm probably just going to give the Wolverine a 6.5 out of 10.
All right, your turn, Anthony.
I really like this film. I'd probably give it a 7, just straight up. I like the characteristic of Logan, the characteristicization. That's not a word.
Characterization.
That's a word. I'll use that one. I like the characterization of Logan. Give him a more personalized feel. You as the audience connect with him more, and you kind of go, "Oh yeah, that's a human emotion that I too feel. I am human also." So I link with it. Agree with Callum. The only pretty poo-poo things were Viper. Why was she in there? She's a mutant as well. Put her in. Yay. She spits acid. It's fun. You don't need to chuck shit like that in. It's not a need. It's maybe more of a want. Maybe even the studio's fault. Who knows? 7 out of 10. It's pretty good.
Yep. So this was basically not a great film, but in a lot of ways it answered a lot of the things that I was asking for in the previous reviews. I wanted a focused, well-written film based around the character of Wolverine. Weirdly, the thing that I was asking for was something I'd already seen, but I think with context of the series, I got a lot more out of it this time, especially with the Jean Grey scenes. I thought the Nagasaki parts were fantastic. I loved the sort of the journey that Logan went on, where the direction and the storytelling gets you sort of more in tune with his feelings. I think the action scenes are excellent, aside from some of the creative choices made for the final battle. But outside of that, I really enjoyed the action scenes, found them quite hard-hitting and violent, and well thought out. I found the romantic interest a refreshing change to the usual Hollywood tropes, and was something that I was not expecting and enjoyed. I thought the political plot was really well handled, and the family issues was, whilst definitely was borrowed from other things, it was something that was very different to what you usually get in Hollywood. It was definitely more on the Japanese side of things. Very fresh change for X-Men, well directed, well scored, great atmosphere. Only flaws really being the slashed editing, the sort of insignificance as a whole to the series, Vipers, all of Viper's stuff, and the sort of slight botching of Ichiro as the samurai. But apart from that, I thought this was a very solid film. And out of all the X-Men films we reviewed so far, this is definitely my favorite. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Which means that next time we're going to be watching X-Men Days of Future Past. Which is going to be a really interesting one, I think.
I think so. It's the one I've been most interested in since we started. It's the one that I'm like, I really don't know how I'm going to feel about it, but it's the most intriguing one going into it.
Yeah. If there's anything that I want to be carried over from this film to the next one, it's the focus in the writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Character focus. Don't overstuff it with shit. Just make it focused.
But then you're talking about a time travel film, so
time travel film with like 10 main characters.
Oh well, good luck.
But yeah, who knows? Maybe it'll be good. we can only hope for the best. But I've heard from some trustable sources of people that are highly critical of film and TV that there are some people that do like Days of Future Past, but I've also heard some people that say it's not good. So it really depends. I think the general consensus I've heard from people that say they like it is that they thought it was good, but then Apocalypse ruined it. So,
Oh no.
oh no.
I keep forgetting that Apocalypse exists.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, Days of Future Past, I think, will be a very interesting one to watch and review. Anything else we want to say before we end? Do you want to get any plugs out of the way?
No, I'm all good.
When is the next Editron video coming?
I don't know.
How's is your project still in the depths, or is it?
It's still in the depths. Still in the depths.
Ah, okay.
Still got a while to go.
Waiting patiently, fingers crossed.
Yeah. It'll be out
Fingers
this
crossed. Yeah. It's like the waiting time for your big project is like waiting for like Jake to return.
year. Yeah. Pretty much.
But yeah, I will be when that pops in my sub box. I'm gonna be jumping for joy.
The plan is there'll be a week or a day before hype for it, and I have a release date in mind. So, and I think it'll be very fitting as well. So, yeah.
Exciting.
Yes. I think I know what that is. But yeah, we'll not reveal what that is about. But it is a big video on your channel, and for anyone who's
my biggest video,
and for anyone who subscribes to this channel, I highly recommend you check it out when it comes. So give Editron a little subscribe and wait for it to pop up. May take a while.
And while you're waiting, I'm watching Classic Who. So if you're into that, there's stuff to suffice you up until then.
Oh yes, Enemy of the World is that.
Enemy of the World, definitely. Enemy of the World, I would say, is my favorite so far.
And also your Earthshock video too.
Yeah, part 2 is like of my reaction specifically. I think
I watched your Earthshock reaction when me and Anthony were in the theaters for Godzilla. Very odd story, but
I like your video of the MCU Aunt May as well. It's a good little.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a good little dissection of that character.
Yeah. It was coming.
I just wanted to say, like, good little dissection there.
It came off something we were talking about in the review of Far From Home.
Yeah,
and
I recorded that before we did the review, so it was like fresh in my mind.
And it's actually started like a snowball where I've started to think about the MCU Spider-Man films a bit more.
Yeah.
A bit deeper.
And later this year there's going to be an MCU video that's going to come out from me where I'm going to address that again and some of the other films.
Yeah.
So I hope you're looking forward to that. That one's not going to be. That one's not going to be for a while though. That one's going to be towards the end of the year. I'll just give that clue. Those of you who are long-time subscribers may be able to do the math and figure out what that means, but I'll leave it a bit of a mystery for those who don't. Anthony, your plugs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just a channel for ants. If you're an ant, come and we have sugar cubes. We got all kinds of different things that ants like. I haven't put a video on there in a while. I should probably get to that. I don't have any idea.
It's because you were busy with your course, and that's why you haven't been on this channel.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll try put some more shit out that's like actually properly edited. Maybe not.
Yeah. That's one criticism I'd have is your audio mixing is awful. Like it goes from like air raid to like dead quiet.
I have 0 qualifications in anything, so.
Yeah, just try and get your audio levels mixed properly. But I did like the attempt, like in terms of like your actual content. I thought the Captain Marvel video was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
Like
I just wanted to do like something that like actual fans of that movie would be like, oh yep, finally a video that like supports my beliefs, and then they go to it and it's just me shitting on the movie. Like, this isn't a good movie, guys. You guys are idiots. Why do you? Yeah.
Oh, it's filmed about feminism.
But Captain Marvel's perfect. She's a
Yeah.
perfect character.
That's my video. That's my
exactly
whole thing.
why. That's exactly why she's a bad character, though. It's like if Superman was a Mary Sue, although he kind of already is in some.
He is, though.
stories. Oh well,
In some
Adam
of-
hates me.
He is. Yeah.
I resent that. That's what he said.
Oh well. See ya.
There's a lot of things that Adam likes that I don't.
Yeah.
Like 80s actors in the MCU and Superman.
You should do a versus video with Callum.
Although, to be fair, there's things that I like that Adam hates, like Love and Monsters. What else? Series 2, I suppose.
Doomsday.
And just in general. Oh, yeah.
The beach
yeah.
scene specifically.
Yeah, the beach scene. That was his unpopular video for the Advent calendar last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beach scene. Interesting.
Yep.
Is there something else that I like that he doesn't? Oh. I know he hates Listen. I don't hate it. I think
I like Listen. I think it's okay.
I think it's got some problems for sure, but
Oh, yeah.
it's a massive plot hole with Awesome Pink. But I don't think it's bad, whereas he hates it. He thinks it's terrible.
I think I have a lot of respect for people who like say their favorite either TV show episode or movie or whatever. It's like they're like, "Yep, this is my favorite," but it has its issues.
Well, I mean, you said that with Black Panther, Anthony.
Well, because it's true. Because I honestly don't believe there's very far and few movies between that have literally absolutely zero issues with it.
The problem is Adam doesn't think that Superman has issues.
Yeah, I guess there could be issues with his ideology of that.
Oh well, you know, it is what it is. And he's got like, even though like Pertwee is actually one of my favorite doctors, like Adam's boner for him is quite annoying. Have you noticed that in videos, Callum? Like, he's obsessively and persistent, where he's like constantly in every video he's in, he's like, Pertwee's the best doctor. You're all wrong. Oh well. I let him have that. And what is his catchphrase? He's like, everyone's entitled to be wrong. He always says that when I bring up Love and Monsters. Tastes like chicken. But yes, enough rambling. We will see you guys next time for X-Men Days of Future Past. Fingers crossed it's good.